Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto becomes overpowered in Highschool DxD Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for Part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. The underworld, to most humans, would be described as a terrifying place where the vilest creatures reside in. And in some cases that would be true, for there were many dangerous and evil creatures lurking around. However, to the residents of the underworld it was their home, and just like any place, human world include, it had its good and bad. But for two underworld residents in particular, this was an extra special day, a day that would mark the beginning of a new chapter in their life. Gah! It hurts, Tabane. A woman with long red hair shouted with her eyes shut tightly and her beautiful face contorted in pain. Standing by her side was a handsome man with cropped blonde hair and lightly tanned skin. His blue eyes looked over his wife worriedly as he held her hand, hoping to offer her any form of comfort. "I know it hurts, Kushina, but you can pull through it," the man said soothingly, but when he saw his wife open her eyes he had to hold back a shiver of fear. Two pools of violet were glaring at him, and it took all of his self-control and pride as a man to deny the frightened whimper that begged to escape from his lips. "That's all you can say? You can pull though it? You knock me up and you can't even do a decent job comforting me? Damn it, why the hell did I marry you in the first place?" The woman, now known as Kushina, shouted in a mix of pain and self-pity. Her husband hung his head down low at her harsh words as a rain cloud of depression hovered over him. If it wasn't for her vice-like grip on his hand, he would have gone searching for a nice quiet corner to sulk in. Now dear, that's just the pain talking. I know you don't mean THACK. He was interrupted as Kushina increased the pressure on his hand up to the point where they heard bones snapping. "Don't go telling me what I mean, and don't mean, you bastard. I don't care if you are one of the four Satans, Ajuka. I will beat your ass to the ground if I have to," Kushina shouted before releasing a moan of pain. This time Ajuka released his whimper of pain. Man, pride be damned. He didn't care that he was one of the strongest devils, or beings, in world. His wife was scary as hell when she was angry, so he made sure to stay on her good side, but it seemed like today it was pointless to try, but he didn't care. Ajuka may have been on the receiving end of Kushina's sharp tongue, but he would bear it because once it was over the end results would be more than worth it. "Kushina-sama, you are almost done. Just one final push," the doctor instructed, and Kushina gave him a tired nod. "Oh, Okayoni, final push," the redhead muttered as she braced herself. 1 to 3 gh. Ajuka winced not only from his crushed hand but from the sound of her pained screams. But soon the screams were replaced with ragged breaths, and she relaxed her grip on his hand. Ajuka was about to ask if she was okay, but that's when it happened. A sudden cry filled the room and he froze. His eyes widened as his body stiffened. Ever so slowly he looked over his shoulder and found the source of the noise. "Beelzebub-sama, I present to you your son," the doctor said with a smile as he walked towards the Satan carrying a small bundle wrapped in a blue blanket. Ajuka nodded slowly, still silent, as he raised his arms to accept the baby. He slowly moved the blanket so he could get a better look, and if he wasn't mute before he would have been struck speechless. To him his son was nothing less than perfection. He could make out a few tufts of blonde hair like his own, and judging by the way he kept squirming he could tell his son would be a regular ball of energy. "Ajuka-kun, stop hogging and let me see him," Kushina said groggily, but she was smiling as she watched her husband interact with their son. That seemed to have snapped the Satan out of his daze. Turning towards his wife he carefully handed her their son before muttering a soft sorry. "It's fine," came Kushina's soft reply as she gently held her son. "Oh, look at him. Just a few minutes old, and I can tell that he's going to grow up to be as handsome as his father." Ajuka smiled as he watched his hold the baby, eyes full of love. The sight of his wife and son was defiantly the most beautiful thing he has ever seen. And that's when it finally hit him. His wife and son. His son. He was a father. Oh sure, he knew months ahead that he would be a father, but this was different. Yes, when he first learned his wife was pregnant he imagined what it would be like to be a father, but to actually watch as his son rested in his mother's arms, to actually hear the cries and other noises he made, to actually hold his child in his arms. It was like nothing he's ever imagined. Unknowingly tears began to form in his eyes. He was called many things in his life. Beelzebub, Satan Blue, genius of the underworld, super devil, a war hero, and now he could add father to the list. In his opinion the last title was by far the best. "Are you alright, Ajuka-kun?" Kushina asked, turning her gaze away from her son towards her silent husband. "I'm fine." Ajuka muttered softly as he took another look at his newborn son, and a radiant smile spread on his face. In fact, I'm better than fine. I'm a father. Kushina couldn't help but chuckle at the odd tone her husband spoke as he said that last sentence. He's beautiful, isn't he? She didn't receive a vocal answer, but she saw him nod. So what are we going to name him? Ajuka asked. Kushina hummed a bit before her eyes lit up. I know! How about Naruto? Ajuka turned to his wife with a raised brow. Kushina, I know you love ramen, but are you seriously going to name our son after a ramen topping? Baka, that's not what I meant. It also means maelstrom. Kushina huffed, rolling her eyes in annoyance. Ajuka was quiet as he thought about it before his lips twitched into a smile. Maelstrom, huh? Yes, that works, a strong name for a strong boy. See? I told you. Naruto Astaroth. She said, testing out their son's full name. As if knowing they were talking about him, the baby, now known as Naruto, opened his eyes to reveal two pools of blue reminiscent of his father's. Naruto scanned the room, but when his eyes landed on his parents, he broke into a fit of giggles as he clapped his hands. Guess he likes it, Ajuka said, listening to his son's laughter before the sound of knocking brought his attention towards the door. The door opened and a young man with long red hair peeked in. Hope we're not interrupting. Come on in, Sirzex, Ajuka said as his childhood friends and fellow Satan entered the room, followed by a silver-haired woman wearing a maid outfit. The woman's stoic face softened as she watched baby Naruto laughing gleefully as Kushina waved her fingers in front of him. Allow me to introduce my son, Naruto Astaroth. Your son is beautiful. Congratulations, Beelzebub-sama, Kushina-sama, the woman said, causing Kushina to pout. Mao, I told you before, Grafia-chan. There's no need for the sama. I thought we were friends. Kushina whined. Be that as it may, it would still be improper to address you without the proper respect, Grafia explained. It's no use, Kushina-chan. Grafia-chan is always so stiff and stuffy that I've stopped trying to get her to lighten up, Sirzex said with a smile before yelping in pain as Grafia pinched his cheek and pulled it. So I am stiff and stuffy because I have manners? Not all of us can be as childish and irresponsible as you, she said stoically. Oh, that hurts, Sirzex whined as he freed himself from his wife's hold. Then you should learn to think before you speak, the silver-haired woman said unapologetically. Ajuka rolled his eyes at the familiar scene but smiled a bit as he heard his son's laughter. It appeared that Naruto enjoyed the antics of Lucifer and his queen. So you like watching Grafia disciplining Sirzex, huh? He asked, waving a finger in front of Naruto, only for the baby to grab it in his own tiny grip. Well, get used to it because it happens often. If you two are done, Kushina said, gaining their attention. Ajuka-kun and I wanted to ask you something. What is it? Sirzex asked curiously as he watched his best friends reach for his son. Do you need anything, Kushina-sama? Grafia asked, more than willing to help her exhausted friend, who shook her head. Kushina-chan and I talked about it, and we wanted to ask if you would be Naruto's godparents, Ajuka said, shocking the couple. Even Grafia couldn't hide her surprise. What? You want us to be his godparents? Sirzex asked before a silly grin grew on his face. Did you hear that, Grafia-chan? I'm a godfather. You're always saying how irresponsible I am, but our closest friends have entrusted me with being their first child's godfather. Actually, we wanted Grafia to be the godmother, but since you two are married, we figured we might as well have just named you godfather. We trust that she will be able to rein in whatever bad habits you might try and pass on to him, Ajuka explained, offhandedly smirking a bit when he saw Sirzex drop to his knees in depression. Does everyone think so lowly of me? The red-headed Satan muttered to himself. Grafia rolled her eyes at her husband's immaturity but couldn't help but feel touched that she was chosen as Naruto's godmother. She made a mental vow that she would be the best godmother for this child. I would be honored, she said, bowing to them in thanks. Ajuka nodded in thanks before gazing back at his son, who seemed to have exerted all his energy. His chest filled with warmth as his son slowly closed his eyes and snuggled into his father's chest, basking in the warmth he provided. Ajuka adjusted his arms to help Naruto get more comfortable as he spoke in a soft, quiet voice so only his son could hear. My son, you have just been born, but I can already tell you will accomplish many things, and I know you will one day surpass me. Kushina Astaroth was walking down one of the many halls of her home with a smile on her face, greeting the servants that passed by. During her walk, her gaze fell upon a family portrait, and her smile grew even brighter as her eyes adopted a softer look. She paused in her steps as she took a moment to study the picture that the family took a few weeks ago. The picture was rather simple, but to her it was perfection. On the left was herself. Her vibrant red hair was tied into an elegant bun, and she wore a beautiful red gown that matched her hair perfectly. Standing by her side was her husband Ajuka. Usually the Satan hated wearing formal clothes, much like herself, but she forced him into something nicer for the occasion. He wore a simple black suit with a sapphire blue shirt and black tie. Standing in front of them was their 8-year-old son grinning at the camera. He wore a red dress shirt and black dress pants. Each parent had a hand resting on a shoulder of their son as they smiled at the camera. Kushina couldn't help but release a loving sigh as she continued on her way. As she and her husband predicted, Naruto was a regular ball of energy, and while there were times when she felt like pulling her hair out, she couldn't deny that the last 8 years were some of the happiest years of her life, and she would be forever grateful to Ajuka for not only loving her but also for her wonderful son. Growing up, it was her greatest dream to have a family of her own, especially after what happened during the civil war between the descendants of the 4 great Satans who wanted to continue the war between devils, angels and fallen angels, and the anti-Satan faction who wanted to make peace and end all the violence. Kushina was originally from the house of Uzumaki. Her family was wiped out during the civil war. Heartbroken, she decided to join the war and fight against the old Satan faction who was responsible for her family's destruction. It was there that she met the 4 main figures of the opposing side: Surzex Gremory, Seraphal Citri, Falbium Glaciolabelas, and Ajuka Astaroth. A group of devils that would be known as the future Satans. During the time she was placed under the command of Ajuka, and she had to say that she was impressed at what she saw. He was a genius on and off the battlefield. Out of group of 4, she was glad that she was placed under the command of Ajuka because it gave them the chance to interact with each other, and as they got to know each other, she soon found herself falling in love. Of course, she never said anything because she knew the most important thing at the time was ending the war, so she kept her feelings at bay. And then came the day the war ended and they won. As one of the main reasons for winning, Ajuka was named one of the new 4 great Satans and given the title Beelzebub. This was met with mixed feelings for the red-headed devil. On one hand, she was glad the war ended, and she was very happy that Ajuka received such an honor, but on the other hand, she couldn't help the feeling of depression that swelled up in her chest. Now that the war ended, everyone would move on and live their life, and Ajuka would have new responsibilities as a Satan, which meant that she would probably never see him again. So she was very surprised when Ajuka walked to her a few days after given his title of Beelzebub. Flashback. Kushina sighed sadly as she took one final look at the small village she was staying at. Seeing as the war was over, she really had no reason to stay here. During the war, the only real friend she made was a devil named Graphia, but she was currently living in the Gremory home as a maid, although she noticed that she seemed awfully close to Surzex, the new Lucifer. Seeing as her only friend had her future set, she decided to travel the underworld, hoping to find her calling. She briefly thought of the idea of becoming a maid like Graphia before tossing that thought just as quickly as it appeared. No way in hell would she become a maid. No offense to Graphia, but it just wasn't her. The only real reason to stay was her feelings for Ajuka, but she convinced herself it was just a crush, a silly infatuation. Besides, he was probably too busy with his new responsibilities to notice her. She was just about to leave for her journey when she heard someone calling out to her. Confused, she turned around only to widen her eyes when she saw Ajuka heading straight towards her. "What are you doing here, Beelzebub-sama?" Kushina asked with a confused look. Ajuka blinked a bit before looking at her with a frown. "Beelzebub-sama? What's with the formality?" he asked with a raised brow. "Ah, well, I just thought it would be improper to address you informally now that you're a Satan. Congratulations, by the way," Kushina said. "Well, you can just drop it," Ajuka said, waving his hand dismissively. "As for what I'm doing here, I actually came to ask you something." Now this caught Kushina off guard. "Really? What is it?" "Can I court you?" he asked bluntly. Kushina's eyes widened to epic proportions as she tried to comprehend what she heard. Out of all the possible things he could have asked, she was most definitely not expecting that. What?" she asked, blushing madly. "I asked if I could court you," Ajuka repeated, looking at her with a raised brow as her blush deepened. What do you mean, court Tebane?" she squeaked. Oh dear God, she actually squeaked. Ajuka blinked in confusion at her question. He knew he was not the best when it came to emotions and reading people, and he knew he could be socially awkward, a result from his childhood as a recluse when he spent most of his free time inventing, but he thought his question was pretty clear. "Court as in date. You know, like when a man courts a woman, it means he wants to be romantically involved with her, typically with the intention of marrying her," he explained, giving her the literal definition, hoping she would understand. "Marry?" Kushina repeated in a faint voice. What the hell was happening? 1 minute she was resolved in leaving this place forever with her intent of burying and forgetting her feelings for Ajuka, and then the next minute said devil appears out of nowhere talking about courting and marriage. Well, not now, of course, Ajuka said, scratching the back of his head before shrugging. But in the future, who knows? It's a possibility. Kushina fell silent as she tried to process what was happening. Finally, she settled with her usual backup plan when she failed to think of something. Gah! Ajuka screamed in pain when Kushina's fist made contact with his jaw with enough force to send him crashing into a nearby wall. Hit first, ask questions later. If you didn't want to be courted, you could have just said so. No need to hit me, Ajuka muttered as he rubbed his jaw, but honestly he was pretty disappointed that she didn't want to go out with him. Hearing this caused Kushina's eyes to widen as she realized what her action must have implied. Wait, no. That's not what I mean. Stupid. The man you have feelings for and can't stop thinking about asks you out, and what do? You hit him. Baka. Baka. Baka, she mentally chided herself, hoping to salvage the satiation. It isn't? Ajuka asked with confusion. So if getting hit didn't mean no, then did that mean she would want to go out with him? Strange. As far as he could tell, physical violence was always a negative thing, but according to her she didn't say no. Did that mean that when people mean yes they'd punch each other? Was he really that unfamiliar with how people interact to not know this? I'm really sorry about that, it's just you really caught me off guard, Kushina explained with an embarrassed look on her face. I see. Ajuka said, relieved that she didn't outright reject him, although he didn't know if she said yes either. Were you serious about courting me? She asked shyly. On the battlefield she was a brave and fierce warrior, but when it came to matters of the heart she had no idea how to act. Yes, I was. I remember the times we shared during the war when you were under my command and I really like you. I would have asked you out sooner, but seeing as I was your superior officer, and it was a time of war, I thought it would be improper. Then came the ceremony naming the new Satans and repairing all the damages done by the war. I just didn't have time to find you, Ajuka answered. I see. Kushina said, smiling a little. So he liked her as long as she liked him? That was nice to know. But if he wanted to date me, why mention all the talk about courting and marriage? That was the part that really confused me. Really? Oh, sorry about that. Before asking you out I did some research and I learned most women were not fond of one-night stands and uncommitted relationships, so I thought I would make my intentions as clear as possible. Also, I thought the purpose of dating was finding a suitable mate to spend your life with. I was unaware that I researched outdated information, he explained. Maybe I should have asked Surzex for advice, he thought before shaking his head. Hell no, chances are he would have given me some stupid advice that would make the situation much worse. No, not outdated, it just sounded like you were taking things too fast, Tebane. I mean, we haven't even gone out on one date yet, and you're already talking about marriage, Kushina explained, smiling a bit now that she understood what was happening. Who knew the great Beelzebub was so socially awkward? You never would have been able to tell after seeing his mysterious and commanding aura he emitted during battle. I see. Again, I apologize for startling you. I didn't, he started before pausing as he thought about her words. Wait a minute, gone out on a date yet? Does that mean we're going on a date in the future? Kushina squirmed a bit before offering a shy smile. I really like you too, and I would love to go out with you. Her smile grew when she saw Ajuka's face break out into a wide grin. Really? He asked excitingly, his grin widening more, if possible, when he saw her nod. Yes. Kushina giggled as the usual calm, cool and collected Satan pumped his fist in the air. And thus began the courtship between Kushina Uzumaki and Ajuka Beelzebub. End of flashback. Kushina couldn't help but chuckle with a nostalgic smile as she went down memory lane. She couldn't believe that she actually punched him when he first asked her out. During their relationship she learned many things about him. One of the main things about him was that he loved to create. She knew he was a genius, but when she saw the inventions he made she was amazed. It was because of this that he became the chief advisor for the technology department of the underworld. And it wasn't long before he created his greatest invention, the evil peace system. The reason for the evil peace system was to help replenish the number of devils after the Great War, which had caused the death of countless devils, and the creation of the evil pieces eventually lead to the creation of the raiding game, which was popular among the devils. Thinking about this caused her to glance at her wedding ring as another fond smile found its way on her face. Flashback. Walking down the halls, Kushina searched for her boyfriends of a few years. He had called her earlier, and he sounded rather nervous. Whatever he wanted to talk about must have been important. She had just turned a corner when suddenly, boom! The sound of an explosion broke the silence. Kushina shook her head with an amused smile. Explosions were a rather common occurrence in Ajuka's home. Finally, she reached her destination and opened the door to his personal lab. Cough cough, is that you, Kushina-chan? She heard her boyfriend's voice ask through the smoke. When it cleared, she covered her mouth with her hand to smother her laughter. Ajuka was scratching his head covered in soot and dust, no doubt a result of the explosion. Hello, Ajuka-kun. She greeted, grinning at his disheveled appearance. Sorry about that, I was working on something, he explained as he tried to fix his appearance, but she just shook it off. That's all right, I know how you get. What is it that you wanted? She asked, tilting her head to the side. She raised a brow when she saw him adopt a nervous look, but he quickly wiped it off. Well, I wanted to talk to you about something. He started as he cleaned the soot off him as best as he could. You remember my newest creations, right? The evil pieces, right? It's become quite the topic. What about it? Kushina asked. Well, do you understand it? He asked, stuffing his hand in his pocket. Not everything, but I understand the gist of it. You based it off of chess, and it's used to reincarnate other species into devils. Each piece gives the person a new power. Kushina answered with a thoughtful look before continuing. There's also that rating game idea you've proposed, and a lot of people are really interested in it. That's right, and that's why I called you. I wanted to know if you wanted to join my peerage, he asked, pulling out a small box. They must have held the evil pieces, Kushina thought. You want me to join your peerage? She repeated, getting a nod from the Satan. Wow, I wasn't expecting that. Sure, I'd love to join your peerage, Ajuka-kun. What piece will I be? Ajuka took a deep breath before opening the box. He took out a piece but closed his hand before she could get a good look at it. Placing the box on a nearby desk, he took one more deep breath before dropping down on one knee. Kushina's eyes widened, and it was like she had forgotten how to breathe. He opened his hand, revealing a chess piece, a queen she recognized, and attached to the top of the piece was a diamond ring. When I create my peerage, I will become king, and every king needs a queen, and I can think of no other than you who could stand by my side as my queen. Kushina, I love, and these past years with you have been the happiest of my life. So today I am asking you, Kushina Uzumaki, will you join my peerage as my queen? Will you join my family as my wife? Will you marry me? Ajuka asked, staring at her with eyes full of love. Kushina was frozen in place, eyes wide with tears forming. With her heart beating at an accelerated rate, she dropped to her knees and looked him in the eyes and nodded. Yes, yes, and yes. She answered each question quietly. Smiling, Ajuka detached the ring from the evil piece before grabbing Kushina's left hand and placed it on her ring finger. Then he opened her hand and placed the queen piece in it before closing it gently. Unable to stop herself, Kushina lunged at Ajuka and wrapped her arms around his neck before kissing him. End of flashback. It was on that day she became the first queen. Soon after that, the evil pieces were passed on to different high-class devils in order to create their own peerages. Boom. And there goes the trip down memory lane, she muttered to herself as she turned the corner. She reached a familiar door and opened it. What happened this time? She asked, entering her husband's lab, which was filled with smoke from the explosion. Cough cough, sorry about that, Kushina-chan. Seems I've made a miscalculation, Ajuka said as he waved his hand in order to shift the smoke away. Cough cough, sorry Ka-chan. An 8-year-old Naruto apologized, trying hard to not inhale any smoke. After all these years, I'm used to you trying to blow yourself up, Ajuka-kun. Kushina sighed. I'm not trying to blow myself up, Ajuka shouted indignantly, but Kushina simply ignored him. But are you sure it's safe for Naruto-chan to be in here? She asked with a frown. Don't worry, Kushina-chan, Naruto's perfectly safe here, Ajuka said confidently. Unfortunately, it was at that moment that a chunk of the ceiling fell down and landed right on Naruto's head. Ow! Naruto yelped as he clutched his head. Safe, huh? Kushina flatly as she looked at her husband with a deadpan expression. Oops, you mean mostly safe? Ajuka offered with an awkward smile. I told you he was too young to be in here, Kushina said, crossing her arms. Come on, Ka-chan. I like watching Tuchan working. Naruto whined, hoping his mother would let him stay. Ever since he could remember, he was fascinated by all the things his father created, and he wanted to learn how to invent things too. I know, sweetie, but still, Kushina trailed off. While she found it adorable that her son wanted to follow his father's footsteps as an inventor, she still felt he was too young to be around all these dangerous equipment. Especially when they exploded. Relax, Kushina-chan, I promise I'll be extra careful. Ajuka reassured. Boom. Extra careful? Kushina asked plainly as she gazed at some strange machine in the corner of the room that just exploded. It was much smaller compared to the other explosions, but still. Starting now? Ajuka tried sheepishly. It doesn't matter. We have to leave. Don't you remember that we have somewhere to be? Kushina asked. We do? Ajuka blinked in confusion. Yes. Kushina asked with a tick mark. I just told you this morning. We are heading to the Gremory house. Oh right. Ajuka said, remembering this before deflating. Do we have to go? I really don't think I can handle Surzek's childish antics today. Hush now, we're going and that's final. Kushina said. Besides, it's been ages since I've gotten to speak with Grafia-chan. I thought Surzek was your best friend. Why are you acting like being with him is an annoying chore? Because sometimes it is. Ajuka deadpanned. Don't get him wrong, he cared deeply for his friend, but sometimes Surzek could be too Surzek. That was really the only way he could describe it. Sometimes he wondered how Grafia had stayed married to him after so many years. Wait a minute, Surzek? As in Surzek's Lucifer? Naruto questioned. He had heard stories about the Crimson Satan, but he never met him in person, or at least he doesn't remember meeting him before. That's right, Naruto-chan. One of the Satans and your godfather. Kushina answered. Now get cleaned up and get dressed. Okay, Ka-chan. Naruto said as he ran to his room to get ready. Good, while he's away we can get ready. Kushina said, heading out the door. Boom. Only to have her eye twitch dangerously as her hair blew in the air from the force of the explosion. Damn it, Ajuka, I told you to stop playing with your toys and get ready, she shouted, turning to glare at her husband. They're not toys, the Satan retorted. Don't care. Now put your toys away and march up to your bedroom and get dressed, Kushina yelled, pointing in the direction of their bedroom. Don't go talking to me like I'm some child. And again, they're not toys. You know I hate when you call them that. Don't think glaring like that will work on me, Kushina-chan. The only reason I'm leaving to get ready is because I promised my dear friend we would visit him today, and I would hate to break my word. It has absolutely nothing to do with that stare of yours. And with that, the great Beelzebub marched out of his lab, past his wife and straight towards their room. As soon as he turned the corner, Kushina crossed her arms and grinned in victory. He may be one of the strongest and influential figures in the underworld, but it was nice that he knew who wore the pants in their marriage. This is so exciting. I get to meet another Satan, Naruto said excitingly as he looked out the window of the carriage they were riding to the Gremory house. Don't get too excited, son. It will only lead you to disappointment when you actually meet him, Ajuka explained, only to receive a slap in the head courtesy of his wife. Oh. Don't go insulting Surzek, Kushina reprimanded. Oh please, you act like you've never insulted him before. Hell, my insults could be considered compliments compared to some of the things you've said. Ajuka rolled his eyes, smiling a bit when he saw Kushina blush a little. That's not the point, she huffed, turning away with a pout. Eventually the conversation between Kushina and Ajuka ended, along with Naruto's sightseeing as their carriage finally reached its destination. Alright, let's get this over with. The sooner we finish, the sooner we can go home and I can work on my new project, Ajuka said, stepping out of the carriage. New project? What is it? Can I help? Naruto eagerly asked as he stepped out. Ajuka looked at his son with a grin. Seeing Naruto show such interest in his work always brightened his mood. He was about to say yes when they both ended up on the receiving end of Kushina's fists. Oh. Both father and son massaged the lump on their head as Kushina stared at her family with narrowed eyes. No talking about projects. We are here to spend some time with our dear friends, do you understand? Ajuka nodded with a resigned look, but Naruto pouted at his mother. But Ka-chan, I don't have any friends here. We're here to see your friends, not mine. I don't even know anybody here, Naruto complained. Don't worry, Sochi-kun, Surzek has a little sister. She may be 2 years younger than you, but I'm sure you'll get along, Kushina said. Really? Naruto blinked. Good, this meant that there would be another kid to play with while the adults would have their boring conversations about whatever it was that adults talked about. Careful though, if you get too close to her you'll earn the wrath of that sis-con we call Lucifer, Ajuka muttered, but Naruto still heard and looked confused. Sis-con? What's that? He asked, only for his mother to rub his head. Don't worry about it, Sochi-kun, it's nothing. she said with a sweet smile before glaring at Ajuka. She told him time and time again to watch what he said around her sweet, innocent baby. However, their family moment was interrupted by a loud shout. Ajuka kun! The family turned towards the voice only to see a large dust cloud heading straight towards them. Oh, for the love of ACK! Was all Ajuka could say before he was tackled and engulfed by the smoke cloud. As the dust cleared, Naruto could see his father trying to break free from a man with shoulder-length red hair who was hugging him. Damn it, Surzex! Let go of me right now! Ajuka shouted, trying to break free from the redhead's hold. But it's been so long since we've seen each other. Aren't you glad to see me? Surzex asked, refusing to release his hold. Ajuka continued to struggle before turning to glare at Kushina, who wasn't even trying to hide her laughter. Damn it, Kushina! This is why I didn't want to come in the first place. What? Our first meeting in who knows how long, and you tried to get out of it. So cruel, Ajuka-kun. Surzex whined with comical tears, and Ajuka winced, positive that a few of his ribs broke as his grip tightened. Kushina continued to snicker at the scene while Naruto was plain confused. He had no idea who this man hugging his father was, but if he heard his dad correctly, then his name was Surzex, and the only Surzex he's ever heard of was Surzex Lucifer, and there was no way this strange man could be a Satan like his father. Right. Now who do we have here? He heard someone ask. Turning towards the new voice, he saw a middle-aged-looking man with long crimson hair and bluish-green eyes. Standing by his side was a young woman with shoulder-length brown hair. Lord and Lady Gremory, how nice it is to see you again. Kushina greeted the head of the Gremory family. How nice to see you too, Kushina, but I don't think we've met this young man before. Lord Gremory said, pointing towards Naruto. Honey, go ahead and introduce yourself. Kushina said, gently pushing Naruto towards them. Hi. My name is Naruto Astaroth, nice to meet ya. Naruto greeted with a smile. Oh my, what a handsome young man. I bet your son Will is going to be quite popular with the ladies when he grows up, Kushina. Lady Gremory stated with a smile. Kushina was about to say something when a loud voice interrupted them. Naru-chan. Before the other devils could blink, Surzex appeared in a red blur and scooped Naruto up in his arms with a silly grin. Mao, it's been so long since I've seen you. I know I'm your godfather, but if you want to call me big brother, it's okay. With Surzex, let go of my son before you mentally scar him. A disgruntled Ajuka grunted as he walked towards the group. Ah, don't be such a grouch, Ajuka-kun. Surzex pouted before feeling pain on his cheek. He only had to think for a second before realizing what was happening. Oh. It hurts, Grafia. Well, if you behaved and acted like the mature, responsible Satan you are supposed to be, then I wouldn't have to do this, came his wife's monotone answer. Having escaped his hold, Naruto stepped away from the couple to stand by his father, who rolled his eyes at their action as if he'd seen it 1,000 times before. Which he has. Naruto-chan, you are they? Naruto asked. Those are your godparents, Grafia and Surzex, Ajuka answered. Wait, Surzex Lucifer? As in Surzex Lucifer the Satan? Naruto asked with a perplexed look. Why, yes, I am, Surzex said as he freed himself from his wife's hold. Why do you look surprised? Oh, I understand. You must have been struck speechless to be in the presence of someone as awesome as myself. No, that's not it. It's just I thought the other Satans would be super cool and badass like Naruto-chan, but you kind of remind me of a clown, Naruto answered honestly. There was a moment of silence. Ha 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 ha. That was broken by Ajuka, who threw his head back, not even trying to hide his laughter. Kushina covered her mouth to try and suppress her giggles, but it was a difficult task to do. Lord and Lady Gremory chuckled in amusement, and while Grafia didn't make a sound, her lips twitched into the tiniest of smiles and her eyes danced with mirth. And Surzex? A clown? The Crimson Satan muttered to himself as he fell on his knees, an aura of depression hovering over him. He's the one you called a Siscon, right? He asked. Remember what Ajuka said in the carriage? I thought we were best friends, Ajuka-kun. How could you tell your son such lies about me? Surzex shouted, pointing an accusatory finger at his fellow Satan. But it isn't a lie. Every adult thought, looking at Surzex with blank looks. Sighing at her husband's embarrassing and usual behavior, Grafia bowed to the Astaroth family. I apologize on behalf of my husband's behavior. It's okay, Grafia. We are more than used to how he acts, no matter how sad that may be, Ajuka said, muttering the last bit before looking at Naruto. Naruto, say hello to you, godmother. Hi, nice to meet you, Naruto greeted with a grin. It is nice to see you again, Naruto-sama. You have grown a lot since I last saw you, Grafia commented. Naruto-sama? Why did you ask Sama to my name? Naruto asked in confusion. It is because you are a high-class devil and the son of two very important devils. It would only be proper to address you in such a manner, Grafia answered. But I'm only 8. It's not like I did anything super important to get called that, Naruto protested. He may have been young, but from the lessons his parents made him take, he knew Sama was a suffix you used on someone who deserved the utmost respect. He also knew that he did nothing to deserve such respect, and he did not want to mooch of his parents' fame and success. Perhaps, but it would still be improper to address you in any other manner, Grafia insisted. Now, why do you have to be so serious, Grafia-chan? Just drop the act and hug my son like you want to, Kushina complained. I assure you that this is no act, Kushina-sama, Grafia replied, causing Kushina to cry anime tears. We're supposed to be best friends, Grafia-chan, and best friends don't talk so formally with each other, the red-headed woman whined. Ka-chan, Tu-chan, what's going on? A young girl's voice asked. Naruto turned towards the newcomer and saw a young girl with long red hair. Ah, Rias, what good timing, come and meet our guests, Lord Gremory said, smiling at his daughter. Who are they? Rias asked, titling her head to the side. She knew who Ajuka was because her big brother brought her to an meeting for the Satans, and he introduced her to them, including Beelzebub. Rias, this is Ajuka-sama's wife Kushina Astaroth, and their son Naruto, her mother introduced. Well, hello there, Rias-chan, it's nice to meet you, Kushina greeted with a smile. It's nice to meet you too, miss, the young girl greeted with a bow. Rias-chan, why don't you take Naruto inside and play while we grown-ups talk? Lord Gremory suggested. Rias blinked at her mother before smiling and nodding. It looked like she would get a new friend today. Walking over to the older blonde, she grabbed his hand and began to pull him inside. Okay. Let's go, Naruto. I have a bunch of toys we can play with in my room, she cried excitingly. The only time she got to play with another kid was when her friend Sona visited, and while she enjoyed spending time with the Citri heir, sometimes she could be a bit too serious. Naruto looked at her and then at his mother, silently asking for the go-ahead. Seeing this, Kushina smiled. It's okay, Naruto-chan. We grown-ups are just going to take for a bit, so go have fun with your new friend, Kushina said, causing the blonde to smile. Okay, see you later, Ka-chan, he said before he and Rias ran off to have some fun. Wait, was that Rias-tan? Come back, Rias-tan! Surzex shouted after just noticing his sister's sudden appearance, and exit only to get hit in the head by his wife. Behave, was all she said as Surzex laid on the ground nursing the lump on his head. Your creepy obsession with your sister aside, let's get down to business, Ajuka said, only to join Surzex on the ground with a matching lump courtesy of Kushina. We're not here for business, we're here to speak with friends, so lighten up, Kushina said. Off on the sides, Lord and Lady Gremory could only sweat drop at the sight of the two most powerful devils lying down on the ground, being bossed around by their wives, each sharing the same thought. Whipped. So you're the heir of the Gremory clan, right? Naruto asked as they walked down the hall. Yup. When Tu-chan and Ka-chan are done leading the family, it will be my turn, Rias explained with a smile before looking at Naruto. What about you? Are you the Astaroth heir? No, my uncle Diodora is the heir, but if anything happens that leaves him unable to fulfill his duties, I would be next in line, Naruto answered with a frown. He met his uncle once, and he could honestly say that he didn't like him. He felt a weird vibe from the man, not to mention things were always tense and uncomfortable when he was in the same room as his father. I see. Anyway, here we are, Rias exclaimed as she opened the door to her room. Naruto gazed at the room and he surprised at what he saw. The walls of her room were covered with different anime posters, plushies of different characters were scattered throughout the room, and he even saw piles of CDs and DVDs. So what do you think? Rias asked, seeing her new friend's surprised look. Otaku was the only thing that passed his lips. Hearing this caused Ria's shoulders to slump, and it looked like she would cry at any moment as she spoke in a small voice. I'm sorry. Why are you sorry? Naruto asked in confusion. You're probably not into this stuff, but I was so excited about making a new friend I didn't think. You probably think I'm a weirdo, she muttered. Not really, Naruto answered right away, gaining her attention. My room's kind of the same, but instead of anime stuff it's filled with blueprints, drawings and different models. Really? Yeah, my dad's like the best inventor ever and I want to be just as good as him, but he says I'm too young to work with tools by myself, so he buys me models to make instead. And the drawing and blueprints are things I want to try and build when I get older. Naruto answered. So you don't think I'm a weirdo? She asked hopefully. Maybe her anime obsession didn't scare him off, after all. Nope, to tell you the truth, I've never watched an anime before, so I can't really judge. The blonde shrugged. What? Only to take a step back at Ria's loud shout. Amaive never watched an anime before, he repeated unsurely. Rias looked at him in unmasked astonishment. She could tell Naruto was older than her, which meant that he's been alive longer than her. And in all that time he's never watched an anime? She would have to fix that. Come on. We can watch one now, she said as she dragged him towards the large TV and put a DVD into the player. Naruto sat down and looked somewhat interested. The anime she chose was something called Gundam, whatever that was. So she possesses the power of destruction? Ajuka asked, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. Yes, we were quite surprised when she first shown sides of it. Almost blew off Beowulf's head, Surzex said, chuckling a bit. Ria's power was too weak to cause any real damage to his pawn, but the look on Beowulf's face was priceless. What about Naruto? Right now he's got a good grasp on the basics, but it seems like he's focused on proving the saying like father like son, Kushina answered. What do you mean? Grafia asked curiously. Naruto's shown interests in my work. He's always in my lab watching me when I work on a project. Sometimes he helps, but most of the time he's watching and studying, Ajuka explained with a smile. Mao, if that keeps happening then he's going to become a boring recluse like you, Surzex complained, earning a dirty look from his friend. You might want to watch your back, Ajuka. Naruto might just sneak up on you and steal your place in the technology department from right under your nose, Lord Gremy teased. However, it was at that time that they were interrupted. Boom. Oh, you have got to be kidding, Kushina groaned in disbelief. What was that? Grafia asked urgently, thinking the house was under attack. Has someone broken in? Lord Gremry asked, standing up from his seat. This is your fault. He gets it from you, Kushina said, sending an accusing glare at Ajuka, who refused to look at her. What? The others asked, confused, wondering why they were so calm. Better go see what happened, Kushina muttered as she stood up and headed towards the sound of the explosion, her husband following her. The other adults still looked confused at Kushina's unconcerned attitude before following her. They reached the destination and the Gremry family tensed when they saw that it came from Ria's room. Kushina opened the door and waved her hand, trying to redirect the smoke from entering her lungs. Naruto, you have some explaining to do, Kushina said sternly with her hands on her hips. Cough cough, sorry Kaa-chan, I didn't mean for the TV to explode, Naruto tried to explain as the smoke cleared, revealing a pair of disheveled kids, a destroyed room and a television that was on fire. How? Kushina asked tiredly. Well, Rias-chan was showing me this anime called Gundam and I got to thinking, how cool would it be to have a giant robot, especially during a raiding game? She agreed with me, so we started looking for things to make a Gundam out. Oh, and the TV was the only thing we could think of. I think I crossed the wrong wires though because it blew up, Naruto explained, not looking into his mother's eyes. The adults were stunned, speechless at his answer. Ha ha. Or at least they were until Surzex fell on the ground laughing. He tried to make a Gundam out of a television, and it exploded. I don't think I've heard that one before, he said, gasping for air. I'm really sorry about that. Please don't be mad at Rias-chan, it was all my idea, Naruto said, hoping to shift any blame from his friend, but the young redhead shook her head. No, if Naruto-kun's in trouble then so am I. I agreed with his idea, so it's just as much my fault as his. Calm down. No one was harmed, so no one's in trouble, Lord Gremry reassured. He was just glad the children were unharmed. No, I think I'm still in trouble, Naruto thought, noticed the annoyed look in his mother's eyes. Well, it appears that we've caused enough damage. Besides, it's getting late, so we should probably head home, Ajuka said. What? But it feels like you just got here, Surzex complained, standing back on his feet. And I barely got to spend any time with Naruto. And for that I am very grateful, Ajuka said straightforwardly, causing Surzex's head to drop. Very well, it was a pleasure to see you again. Hopefully you'll be able to visit again soon, Lady Gremry said with a smile. Bye Naruto-kun, I had lots of fun, Rias said, waving at the retreating blonde who was following his parents out. See ya around, Rias-chan. Naruto waved back, smiling. That smile was wiped off when he entered the carriage and met Kushina's angry glare. Grounded, was her only response. How long? Naruto asked, knowing there was no use in trying to get out of it. For 1 month you are not allowed to enter your father's lab. What? Naruto and Ajuka asked with a horrified look. You heard me, and don't give me that look, Ajuka. You're the one who taught him how to blow things up, and he decided to blow up a room in our friend's home. Kushina said, crossing his arms. I don't blow things up on purpose. I didn't blow it up on purpose. A 9-year-old Naruto cursed as he rolled out of the way to avoid getting hit by a magic blast from his mother. Pretty good reflexes, Naruto-chan, but you're going to have to do better than that, Kushina said in a sing-song voice as she raised her arm open-palmed. Next thing he knew, 3 chains made of magic shot out of her palm and were heading right for him. Oh shit. He muttered as he tried to dodge, but one of the chains wrapped around his ankle. Gotcha. Kushina smirked before pulling her arm back, forcing Naruto to come flying towards her. She began to swing her arm in a circle, and Naruto was forced to follow thanks to the chain. Ayaha! He screamed as he was being swung around like a rag doll. The chains began to glow a bright white before dispersing, and with nothing to restrain him, Naruto was sent flying until he crashed into a wall, creating a Naruto-shaped crater. Ow! He muttered as he fell to the ground with a thud. Guess we will call it a day, huh, Naruto-chan? Kushina asked as she walked towards her son. And no wa ka-chan. Naruto said, standing up on shaky legs. It was obvious that he was still dizzy from Kushina's last move. I can keep going. Maybe, but I don't want you to overexert yourself, Kushina said. But I need to train Ka-chan. I'll be getting my evil pieces soon, so I need to get stronger. Naruto tried to protest. A high-class pure-blood devil would receive their evil pieces when they turned 10. So in about a year he could start forming his peerage, but he needed to be stronger. He was the son of 2 powerful and influential devils, and one of them was a Satan, so he had some pretty big shoes to fill, but he was confident he could do it. But in order to do that, he would be expected to enter numerous raiding games to show off his strength, which was essentially a violent version of chess. He was king, so if he falls then his peerage loses, and he simply refused to stay back where it's safe while his peerage fights. He would not be that kind of king. He would fight alongside his allies and win with them. Which is why he asked his parents to train him. Relax, Naruto-chan, you are very strong for your age. Kushina reassured, causing Naruto to ease a bit. Really? Yes, really. You have to understand, Naruto, that you're comparing your strength to mine, your father's and the rest of his peerage's strength, but we've had centuries of training and fighting to get as strong as we are today. We didn't get as strong as we are today overnight. Kushina explained. Sorry, I guess I'm just rushing a bit. Pretty soon I'll be able to form my own peerage, but I want to be strong enough to protect them and fight alongside them. Whenever Tuchan talked about his peerage, he sounded so proud, I guess is the word. He was proud to fight alongside them. And when you or the others talk about it, you always mention how lucky you were to fight under a great king. Naruto tried to explain before blushing in embarrassment. I guess I just want to be like him, the kind of king that his peerage respects as a friend and leader. Kushina just looked at him unblinkingly, causing Naruto to shift in place before she grabbed him in a bone-crushing hug. Ah, Naruto-chan, you're so cute, she cooed as she rubbed her cheek against his. No, I'm not. What's with you, Ka-chan? I was being serious. Naruto protested as he tried to escape her hold but wasn't having any luck. Nothing, Sochi, Ka-chan's just having a moment, she answered as she let him go, resisting the urge to hug him again. The way he looked up to his father, she just couldn't explain how adorable she thought it was. Now go get cleaned up, we're having company today. Naruto looked at her, tilting his head in confusion. We are? Who? The Gremory clan? It had been about a month since he last saw Rias. Ever since their first meeting they would often visit each other. This of course led him to meeting the Citri Arizona, who was the complete opposite of Rias, but he got along with her fairly well. No, not them, an old friend of mine is visiting and she even has a son your age, Kushina said as she led Naruto out of the training room. Really? Naruto asked with wide eyes. The only friends he had that were around his age were Rias and Sona, and while they were good company he couldn't help but wish he had a friend who was a guy. Yes, and from what I hear he is pretty strong for his age, just like you. Who knows, maybe by the end of the day you'll have a new training buddy. Kushina mused. Now go to your room and get ready. Alright, Naruto said as he ran ahead of his mother. Misla, it's nice to meet you again, Ajuka greeted as he opened the door to allow his guests to enter. The first was a young beautiful woman. She had long black hair tied in a high ponytail and violet eyes. The second was a young boy who looked a lot like his mother, shaggy black hair and violet eyes. "Hello, Ajuka, it's been a while since we've last spoken," Misla said with a smile. "It has indeed, and I assume this young man is your son?" he asked, nodding to the boy who remained silent. "He is. Come now, Sochi, introduce yourself," Misla said, nudging the boy. "Hello, Beelzebub-sama, my name is Serorg Bale. Thank you for allowing us in your home," he said politely with a bow. "Misla-chan, is that you?" they heard someone ask. Turning, they watched as Kushina and Naruto make their way towards them. "Kushina-chan, it's been ages," she greeted her old friend, who nodded in return. "I know, and this must be Serorg," Kushina said, looking at the bow, who bowed again. "You are correct, Kushina-sama," the boy stated. "Era, such a polite young man. Naruto, come greet our guests," Kushina said. "Yo! The name's Naruto Astaroth, nice to meet you," Naruto greeted with a grin. He seems to have taken after you, Kushina-chan," Misla mused with a smile. "Really? I haven't noticed. Honestly, I think he takes after Ajuka more than me," Kushina admitted. "Oh, that's right. I've heard from Venelana that Naruto is growing up to be quite the inventor," Misla said with an amused smile as she remembered hearing how the blonde tried to turn a television into a Gundam, which resulted in an explosion. "Very true. Naruto-chan, why don't you show Serorg around the house?" Kushina suggested. "Sure. Come on, Serorg, I'll give you the grand tour," Naruto said. Serorg looked at him blankly for what seemed like hours before nodding. "Very well," he muttered as he followed Naruto out of the room, leaving the adults. "So how has it been?" Ajuka asked with a serious look. Misla looked at her friends before releasing a sigh. "Difficult, but we've managed." "I still can't believe the bastard did that," Kushina fumed with an angry scowl plastered on her face. The Bale clan was one of the more prominent clans in the underworld, and like most families, they had a branch of magic that was unique to members of their family. Theirs was known as the power of destruction. However, Serorg did not inherit it, and Lord Bale blamed Misla since she was not a Bale. When he learned that Rias inherited the power of destruction from her mother, who was a Bale, he was even more upset. Thinking that his eldest was a disgrace, he appointed his youngest son and Serorg's younger half-brother as the next heir to the Bale clan, while banishing Serorg and Misla to the countryside of Bale territory. "It's been a few months since the incident, but I'm more concerned about Serorg," Misla said in a quiet voice that conveyed a mother's concern for her child. "What's wrong with him?" Ajuka asked with a frown. "While he doesn't really care what his father thinks, I can tell he is worried about me. We have always been close, and I can see that he blames himself. Not only that, but the other devils have not been helping. They have constantly ridiculed him, and I can tell that it's starting to get to him," she explained, her eyes downcast. "I see a lot has happened to him despite being so young," Ajuka agreed. "That's why I hope your plan works, Kushina-chan," the black-haired woman said, gazing at Kushina, who was smiling comfortingly. "Don't worry. Sometimes when life knocks you off your feet, you just need a good friend to help you stand," she explained, still smiling. "You may be right," Misla agreed with a hopeful smile. Maybe having a friend would lift up her son's spirit. "And this is the training room. If I'm not in my room or my dad's lab, then I'm usually in here," Naruto said as he led Serorg into the training room. Serorg studied the room before glancing at Naruto. "If it is all right with you and your parents, I would like to stay here and use the room for the remainder of my visit," he said in a rather stiff voice. "You're sure?" Naruto said in a wary voice. He frowned as he watched Serorg walk towards one of the weight stands and began some heavy lifting. During the tour, Serorg barely spoke to him, and when he did, it was usually one-word answers, and he spoke in a clipped tone. He was hoping to become friends with him, but he was making it rather difficult. Damn, it was so much easier becoming friends with Rias and Sona, he thought with a frown before walking towards the other boy and picked up his own set of weights. "So what's the Bale clan like?" he asked, hoping to start a conversation. He raised a brow when he noticed Serorg tensing up and his eyes narrowed, but he didn't say a word. "I heard that they're one of the strongest clans, right?" He tried again, but was once again met with silence. "Hey, where's your dad? How come he didn't show up with you and your mom?" He tried once again. This time, though, he got an answer. It was so quiet that Naruto couldn't hear him. "Sorry, but I didn't catch that," he said, and was surprised by the angry glare Serorg shot him. "I said shut up," he growled, causing Naruto to frown. Oh, I'm just trying to be nice here. No need to act like a jerk, he said, getting a bit irritated. He tried to be friendly with his guy and was only met with the silent treatment. Now he finally talks and he gives him the attitude? Nice? Serorg scoffed. Bullshit. You're just mocking me like everyone else. Mocking you? I'm just asking you some questions. How the hell is that mocking you? Naruto asked with narrowed eyes. Shut up. I don't care if you're some Satan's brat. I'm not going to just stand still and take this. Serorg growled as he dropped his weights. Some Satan's brat? Naruto hissed back with a glare. Alright, I've tried to be nice, but you're seriously pissing me off. The same could be said about you, buddy. Serorg shot back. The two continued to glare at each other until some sort of invisible signal went off. Bam. Both boys' heads snapped back from the punch they received. Serorg was the first to recover and delivered a solid punch to Naruto's stomach, causing him to lurch forward. Clasping his hands together, Serorg slammed both hands into the back of Naruto's head, causing him to crash into the ground. Naruto wasn't going to take this without fighting back, though. He grabbed Serorg's ankle and pulled, causing the other boy to lose balance and fall. Serorg tried to roll away, but Naruto jumped to his feet and landed a kick to his side. Not bad, Serorg admitted before getting back up and charging. He cocked his fist back and aimed a punch at Naruto's face, planning to knock his head off. The blonde had other plans, though. He moved his head to the side, narrowly avoiding the blow, but he used Serorg's momentum against him. He grabbed his arm and threw the boy over his shoulder, who grunted in pain as he connected with the ground. Come on, jackass. With that attitude earlier, I expected more from you, Naruto taunted. Don't get cocky, Serorg said with a frown as he stood up. I was just warming up. Before Naruto could blink, he felt a wave of pain hit him. He looked down to see a fist lodged in his gut. Fast was the only thing Naruto could think of before the fist left, only to be replaced by a knee strike. And strong, he thought, before he was sent flying away before crashing into a nearby wall. He absently noticed it was right next to the crater he made when his mother threw him at the wall earlier. I have to say I'm disappointed. I expected more out of Beelzebub-sama's son, Serorg stated with his arm crossed. You've barely spoken to me, but whenever you do, you always address me as my father's son, Naruto growled as he stood up and got into a fighting stance. My name's Naruto, you ass, so you better start singing it. Are we here to talk or fight? Serorg said, getting into his own fighting stance. Nothing more was said as the two boys charged at each other. The room was filled with grunts and the sounds of impact as the two boys exchanged punches, kicks, and headbutts. Naruto winced after receiving a pretty hard uppercut and countered with a roundhouse kick. Serorg recoiled a bit but didn't move from his spot. He shot his arm out and grabbed the collar of Naruto's shirt before hitting him with a devastating headbutt. Gah! Naruto yelped before casting a spell. A small magic circle appeared in front of his hand before it was engulfed in fire. Take this, bitch! Naruto shouted as he hit Serorg's chin with a blazing open palm strike. Serorg staggered a bit, and Naruto took this opening as a chance to start his comeback. He first hit a roundhouse kick that was able to connect with Serorg's chest. The moment his foot hit the ground, he spun around to build some momentum and simultaneously hitting him with a right elbow to the chest and a left punch to the stomach. Arg! Serorg grunted in pain before digging his foot down and hitting Naruto with a straight left punch, but before Naruto was pushed back, he grabbed his shirt and followed with a right. Naruto spit out a glob of blood before grabbing a hold of Serorg's shirt in a similar hold as his. The two shared one more glare before they entered a punching contest with their free hand. Blow after blow. Punch after punch. Hit after hit. Soon their faces looked as if they were just giant bruises, but neither would give up. Both faces scrunched in annoyance as they simultaneously cocked their fists back. Just go down already! They both shouted, nailing the other with their fists. It seems that their endurance finally fell as they released their hold on the other and fell to the ground. Both were breathing heavily as they stared at the ceiling, too tired and hurt to even try and get up. Naruto had to admit that Serorg was very strong for his age. Physically, he was levels ahead of Naruto, and the only thing that let his continue on was a combination of his will to continue and his stubbornness on refusing to give up. Draw? Naruto asked tiredly. Draw. Serorg agreed. So mind telling me what I said that pissed you off? Naruto asked, neither bothered to get up. You were making fun of me and my situation, Serorg answered, causing Naruto to frown. How was I insulting you? When my mother told me a boy my age would be coming over, I was hoping I could be friends with him since I don't have many friends my age. But when I tried to talk to you, you barely said a word. I just asked a few questions to try and get to know you." Naruto explained, wondering how he offended him. "You mean you don't know?" Serorg asked after a moment of silence. "Know what?" Naruto asked, turning his head a bit to get a better look at the boy. "When you asked about the Bale clan and my father, it made me angry. Something recently happened to my mother, and it is because of them," he answered, wondering if he should continue. After a moment of thought, he sighed and decided he might as well explain why he got so mad that he started a fight. "Have you heard about the power of destruction?" "Yeah, my friend Rias has that ability." "Why?" Naruto said, remembering his red-headed friend showing him the destructive power of her magic. "The power of destruction was originally from the Bale clan. The reason Rias can use it is because her mother was originally a Bale before she married into the Gremry," he explained. "Huh, so that would make you two cousins or something?" Naruto asked curiously. "Pretty much, but unlike her, I did not inherit the power of destruction, and my father was not pleased with that," Serorg said with a frown. He thought it was a disgrace for the Bale heir to not have the power of destruction. Once he found out the Gremry heiress could use it, it upset him even more. He blamed my mother for giving birth to what he considered a useless heir, so he banished us from the main house. Now we're forced to live in the countryside at the very edge of the Bale lands. If being kicked out of our home wasn't bad enough, we also have to do with the constant insults and mistreatment from the other devils. When you kept asking about the Bale clan, I thought you were making fun of my situation." "I see. I'm sorry about asking about such a sensitive topic," Naruto said after absorbing what he just heard. "It wasn't your fault you didn't know. I apologize for jumping to conclusions and letting my anger get the best of me," Serorg said. "But if you want my opinion, you don't need the power of destruction," Naruto said with a thoughtful expression. "What?" Serorg looked at Naruto confused. "I mean, you were really strong, and it was just hand-to-hand combat. I can only imagine how much stronger you'll get when you're older. Plus, there are a lot of other things you can learn to get stronger too," Naruto said, and Serorg actually smiled for the first time since he came here. "Thanks, you were pretty good too," Serorg complimented. "No matter what I tried, you just wouldn't stay down." "Naru-chan." "Serorg. Where are you?" they heard Kushina asked from outside the training room. "Oh," Naruto muttered, not looking forward to this. "Did you find them, Kushina-chan?" they heard Misa asked. "Not good," Serorg mumbled after hearing his mother. You said your boy likes to train, right? So does Naru-chan. I bet they're in the training room having a friendly spar," Kushina's voice said as it got closer. "Shit." Both boys cursed as the door opened. Naruto/Serorg. Both mothers shouted as they saw their sons lying on the floor. "Hi, Ka-chan," both the boys said, trying to smile, but it came out as a grimace. "What happened?" Kushina said as she ran over to her injured son with Misla following her lead. "Well, you see, Serorg and I were talking," Naruto started to explain, getting everyone's attention. "Then we had this weird sound. We decided to investigate, and it led us to the training room." "What was it?" Kushina asked worriedly. Had someone managed to sneak into their home and harmed her baby? Serorg was just looking at Naruto with a raised brow, wondering what the hell kind of story he saw pulling out of his ass. And when we entered the room, we saw he trailed off, trying to think of something before blurting out the first thing that came to mind. "Bigfoot." Chirp, chirp, chirp. Naruto wasn't sure if the cricket noises were imaginary or not, but he didn't care. He was too busy avoiding everyone's eyes, trying to hide the embarrassed blush he knew was spreading on his face. "What?" Kushina asked with an incredulous face. Naruto looked at Serorg for help, but the black-haired boy just looked at him blankly. It was obvious that he was not going to even try and help with his ridiculous excuse. "Yo, we saw Bigfoot working with the weights, and once it saw us, it freaked out and attacked us. It turns out Bigfoot is insanely strong because it took the both of us to take him down. But we were able to take him down, but once he heard your voice, he ran off. Serorg and I were so tired that we fell to the ground exhausted just as you entered." "Bigfoot, huh? Why didn't we see him leaving the training room?" Kushina asked flatly with a raised brow. "Well, Bigfoot has got to be really quick and stealthy, right? Why else has no one been able to get a clear picture of him?" Naruto explained. "So yeah, that's pretty much what happened." "Baka!" Kushina shouted with a comical look of rage. "Do you really think I would believe such a story?" As if someone like the first queen would fall for such a lie, Serorg thought, rolling his eyes. How did Naruto think that anyone would believe that ridiculous story? Everyone knows Bigfoot lives in the human world. There's no way he would be here in the underworld. Kushina continued, and if Sarorg was able to stand, he would have face planted hard. That's why she doesn't believe him, he thought incredulously. So what really happened? The red-headed devil asked, tapping her foot impatiently. It was my fault, Kushina-sama, Sarorg said, sitting up, though it took a lot out of him. Naruto was just trying to be polite, but I let my temper get the best of me. What started out as a simple misunderstanding turned into a fight. I apologize for my actions. It wasn't just him, Ka-chan. I let my temper get to me too, Naruto said, not letting Sarorg take all the blame. Kushina looked at the two boys before turning to Misla, who just shrugged, causing her to sigh. Fine, but don't think I'll let you off the hook so easily. Now come on, we better fix you up, Kushina said with an annoyed look, and in order to show how displeased she was, she grabbed Naruto by the ear and began to drag him away. Oh. Ka-chan, let go. Are you telling your mother what to do? Ouch. Of course not, Ka-chan. Oh. Please stop twisting my ear. Sarorg and Misla's sweat dropped as they watched Kushina drag Naruto away, ignoring the younger boy's pleads. Shaking her head a bit, Misla looked at her son with a concerned expression. What about you, Sarorg? Are you okay? She asked, gaining her son's attention. He was about to answer but paused to think about it. Before, he was always tense and on guard because everyone around him usually had something derogatory to say to him, but today he met a boy his age that didn't seem to care about his problem. Hell, he didn't even know about before today. Not only that, but he was strong. Usually when he got into fights, it was against devils his age who never trained a day in their life, or older, more experienced devils who could take him down without much effort. Today was the first time he fought against someone who was on equal levels with him, and it was refreshing. It was true that his body was sore, but he felt himself starting to relax, so he grinned at his mother, and she blinked in surprise when she saw the genuine happy look in his eyes. As a matter of fact, Mother, I'm more than okay, he said, his eyes drifting towards the door where he could still faintly hear the voice of Naruto complaining that his mother was pulling his ear too hard. I've never been better, he said, closing his eyes, missing his mother's surprised but pleased expression. I'm glad, she whispered with a smile. Despite her son's bruised face, it's been some time since she's seen him this happy. Do you really have to go? Kushina asked as she and the rest of her family stood by their mansion gates. I'm afraid so, Misla said, smiling when Kushina pouted. No need to pout, dear. They have their own house to return to. Ajuka sighed, but Kushina crossed her arms and turned away with a huff. But they can just spend the night here. It's been so long since Misla and I got to spend some time together, who knows when we'll see each other again, she protested. I'm sure we'll be seeing each other soon, Kushina-chan, Misla promised, causing the redhead to sigh. Fine, it was nice meeting you, Sarorg, Kushina said, smiling at the boy who was standing by his mother silently. And it was nice to meet you, Kushina-sama. Thank you for letting us into your home, he thanked with a bow, but Kushina waved him off. Think nothing of it. In fact, you're both welcome here whenever you want. Isn't that right, Ajuka-kun? As long as they stay out of my lab, I really don't care, Ajuka said absent-mindedly, only to wince as his wife drove her elbow into his side. I'm sorry, Ajuka-kun, you're going to have to speak up. I didn't quite catch that, Kushina said with a sweet smile that didn't fool anyone standing there. Really? How rude of me. I said that our doors are always open to our dear friends, Ajuka said with a nervous smile. But he sent Naruto a quick glare when he heard the younger blonde snicker. Well, we better head on out, Misla said as she turned to leave. Sarorg followed suit but paused and looked over his shoulder. Naruto, he called out, gaining everyone's attention, including his mother's, who stopped walking to see what was going on. Yeah? Naruto asked, tilting his head in confusion. Sarorg just looked at him with a serious look before a grin broke free. You better up your training, because the next time we meet it won't end up in a draw like today, Sarorg announced, causing Naruto to blink before shooting the other boys a similar grin. You're absolutely right. Next time I'm going to kick your ass, Naruto declared, earning a snort from the other boy. Please, by the time of our next spar I'll be so strong I'll take you down in 5 seconds flat, Sarorg countered. That's some big talk for someone who could barely sit up a while ago. I was on my feet pretty fast, Naruto smirked. Only because your mother dragged you by your ear, Sarorg shot back. The adults watched in amusement as Sarorg and Naruto kept shooting back barbs at each other. Ajuka was particularly interested because it reminded him a lot on how he and Surzex acted when they were kids. It was on this day that a rivalry between two young devils with unlimited potential was formed. But more importantly, it was on this day that a friendship was made. A 12-year-old Serorg was walking down the halls of Beelzebub's mansion. It has been about 3 years since he first entered this home, and a lot has changed since then. For one thing, he was taller and more muscular. Ever since his first meeting with Naruto, the two of them formed a strong rivalry, and the both of them worked hard to try and outdo the other. While Serorg was stronger physically, Naruto had more talent with magic, and his ability to make unexpected plans on the spot was astounding. Not mention their greatest strength. They were both too damn stubborn to stay down, so more often than not their spars would end in a draw when they were both knocked unconscious. But it wasn't just his physical appearance that changed. It was the air around him too. Instead of walking around with a blank look, he was walking through the halls with a large grin on his face. Not only has he found a strong rival in the blonde, but he found a great friend. When the two of them weren't training, they could be seen just hanging around acting like the young boys they were. Also, things were looking better for both him and his mother. Just a few months ago, Serorg challenged his younger half-brother to a battle where the winner would become heir of the clan. Despite not inheriting the power of destruction, Serorg proved he was still strong after defeating his brother and earning back his birthright. Standing by his side was a young girl around the same age as Serorg. She had long blonde hair tied in a ponytail and green eyes. Her name was Keisha Abaddon, and she was Serorg's first, and so far only member of his peerage. The two met a few weeks ago, when Serorg decided to go for some private training. That was when he saw some devils picking on the blonde-haired girl. Apparently they were each from different families of the remaining 34 pillars. Not only that, but they were some of the more arrogant members, and they felt they needed to remind Keisha, an extra demon, who the superior ones were. Something they soon found out after Serorg introduced them to his fists. After thanking him to help her, the two of them got to talking, and after learning she was considered a failure to her family and was kicked out, Serorg felt he could relate and invited her to stay with him, and a few days later she became her queen. "You seem to be in high spirits, Serorg-sama," she commented, and it was true. From what she's seen, her king was a very positive person, but his mood seemed to have gone brighter when they entered the house. "I suppose so. It's been about a month or so since I've last seen Naruto," Serorg explained as if that was the answer. And it pretty much was. He was excited to see his friend. Not only that, but he could brag about being the first of the two find someone to join their peerage. "You speak fondly of this Naruto," Keisha observed curiously. "At first I wanted nothing to do with him, but I will admit that was when I was in the brooding stage of my life," he started, and Keisha nodded along. She had heard about her king's past, but she found it hard to believe that such a cheerful person was capable of brooding. "The two of us got in a fight. It ended in a draw. After the fight I felt so much better and I wanted a rematch. He was the first person my age that was able to fight back. Soon after we became rivals, and then we became friends." "I see. I will admit I am curious about meeting him," the blonde-haired girl admitted. "I'm sure you two will get along," Serorg said as they turned the corner when... Boom. "What was that?" Keisha asked urgently as she stood in front of her king protectively, her hands glowing with her demonic magic. However, she blinked in confusion when she heard Serorg laugh and walk past her as if explosion were a normal occurrence in this home. If only she knew. The two walked until they reached a door, and they could see some smoke coming through the spaces. Without knocking, Serorg grabbed the knob and turned, waving away any smoke before he inhaled it. "Naruto, are you free or are you too busy trying to blow yourself up?" Serorg shouted, looking around the room. "Screw you, cough cough, I'm not trying to blow myself up," a voice shouted as the smoke cleared. Keisha looked at the disheveled blonde before him, covered in soot and oil. His blue eyes were looking at Serorg with annoyance as his hands ran through his sun-kissed blonde hair. "Shouldn't you be speaking to your elders with more respect?" Serorg asked with mock innocence, causing Naruto to scowl. "Innocence? You're only a few months older," he said. "Maybe, but that doesn't really change the fact that I'm 12 and you're 11, the black-haired boy countered. "Please, my birthday is in a couple of days, then we'll both be 12. Naruto scoffed. "Actually, you'll be 12 and I'll be 12 and a few months old," came Serorg's smooth reply. "Whatever, Gigi," Naruto mocked, rolling his eyes before noticing the other presence in his room. "Who's she?" "This is Keisha Abaddon, my queen," Serorg introduced. "Greetings, Astera-sama. It is an honor to meet you," Keisha said with a bow. When she looked back up, she saw Naruto gaping at them. "Is something the matter, Astera-sama?" You have a queen? Since when? Naruto asked, flabbergasted. A few weeks ago. Sarorg said, shrugging like it was no big deal, but he was mentally grinning at his reaction. Damn it! How did it come to this? How did you get someone to join your peerage before me? Naruto asked as he fell to his hands and knees, pounding the floor with a fist. Because I am better than you? Sarorg suggested with an innocent look, but Naruto shot to his feet and pointed a finger at him. Blasphemous! He shouted. Now that I think of it, Rias has a queen too, right? Sarorg asked, pouring salt to the wounds. So? Naruto asked, turning away. We had 2 years on her, and yet you still don't have a single member? He mocked. So it took you 2 years to get a member too? Naruto shot back, glaring at him in annoyance. Perhaps, but I said I would not form my peerage until I reclaimed my place as clan heir. I needed those 2 years to train in order to do so. What is your excuse? It's not that bad, is it? Sona-chan hasn't gotten a member yet. Naruto tried to defend himself. She's 9. She won't get her set of evil peace until next month on her birthday. Sarorg deadpanned, causing Naruto to fall down as an aura of depression hovered over him. On the side, Kisha watched the whole thing with a sweat drop. This is how the son of Beelzebub-sama acts? She thought before turning towards her laughing king. I have not seen Sarorg-sama act like this before. It doesn't matter. So what if you got a head start? I'll still kick your ass. Naruto shouted as he jumped on his feet and glared at Sarorg, who returned it with a smirk. Yumari, you two going to fight? Kisha asked nervously. The two boys stared at her, blinked, stared at each other, blinked, then looked back at her with a thoughtful look. No, I don't think so. What about you, Naruto? Me neither. Maybe tomorrow, but I'm fine right now. Their casual admittance that they would fight later made the queen's sweat drop. Anyway, it's nice to meet you, Kisha. Welcome to the family. Naruto greeted, holding his arm towards her. Blinking in conclusion, Kisha attentively took his hand in her own and shook. If you don't mind my asking, what do you mean by family, Astra-sama? She asked when he released his hold on her hand. None of that Sama stuff. Just call me Naruto. I hate using formalities. Sarorg and I are brothers in every way but blood, and since you joined his peerage, that means you joined our little family. Naruto explained. I see, then I thank you for welcoming me, Naruto, Kisha said with a small smile. She was not expecting this from the son of a Satan, but Sarorg was right. Naruto was a very interesting devil. Alright, so both you and Rias have a queen already. I really have let myself fall behind, but not anymore. By the time of my birthday, I will find the first member of my peerage, Naruto declared as he pumped his fist into the air. Few days later, Naruto's birthday. Damn it! Why is it so hard to find peerage members? An irate Naruto shouted as he walked along a dirt road. He promised Sarorg that he would find his queen. It proved to be a much more difficult task than he originally thought. Why couldn't I have been as lucky as Rias-chan and have my future queen summon me? He whined as he began walking up a hill. He had met Rias' queen, a young girl named Akino. Turns out she accidentally summoned one of the Gremry clan devils who saved her life. She was brought to their home and became best friends with Rias and soon her queen. But he resigned in his luck that something like that would not happen, and he began his research. He looked up different types of yokai to learn about unique abilities and characteristics that they possessed. Then he went on different human blogs to find out any interesting rumors in the human realm. Most humans were ignorant about the supernatural world and passed them off as simple myths and superstitions. And more often than not, these myths involved the supernatural. So while he was doing his research, he found a particularly interesting story. Apparently there was a small village that was untouched by modern civilization. While not impossible, it was rare for there to be villages, but they were often ignored since the people there lived in the past. But there was a note saying that it was located in a tropical environment. The strange thing was that about 10 years ago the temperatures began to plummet out of nowhere. No one knew why, and then a few years later the impossible happened. The village had never seen snow before, but a few years ago it became a common sight. It came to the point that snowstorms were a common occurrence. But since this was so far away from civilization, most people thought of this as a myth about a vengeful ice spirit unleashing their wrath on the village. And so here he was. The moment Naruto reached the top of the hill, it was like he walked into one of those walk-in refrigerators that butchers used to store meat. Looking at the ground, he saw a light layer of frost that became deeper the closer it reached the village. Looks like there might be some truth to this myth, Naruto muttered as he walked towards the village. Hello? Is anybody here? Naruto shouted as he walked through the freezing village. The only answer he received was the sound of snow getting crushed beneath his steps. Frowning, he stuffed his hands in his pockets and continued to search for someone who could hopefully give him some answers. After a few more minutes of walking in silence, Naruto scratched his head, wondering why he hadn't seen a single person. Was this village abandoned? Well, he guessed that made sense if they were hit by a bunch of random snowstorms. Looks like I have to search on my own, Naruto said as he stopped walking and crossed his arms. So if I was some kind of mythological being creating random blizzards, where would I be? A sudden gust of cold wind blowing past him was his only answer. Okay, that wasn't ominous or anything. Naruto sighed as he continued to walk before his eyes widened and he snapped his fingers with a grin. Oh man, how stupid can you be? He said to himself, smacking his head. Raising his arm, he pulled the sleeve of his jacket up, revealing something that resembled a watch. But instead of numbers and a hand, the only thing there was a red arrow. Okay, time for your field test. He pushed a small button on the side of the watch and looked as the red arrow lit up before spinning in a circle. After a few seconds of spinning, the arrow stopped, pointing towards Naruto's upper left, and began to blink. That way, huh? Naruto said with a pleased smile. This was one of his earlier inventions, and while simple, it was very useful. It was a yoki detector. The arrow would lead you to the strongest source of yoki in the surrounding area, and since this place was so barren, the source of yoki was probably what he was looking for. After walking, he soon found himself at a park and the arrow was pointing straight ahead. He looked up and saw someone sitting on a swing. It was a young girl who appeared to be his age. He took a look at her and was surprised he actually saw her. She almost blended with the snow perfectly. She had pale skin and long hair that was white as the snow around them. He couldn't see her eyes since she was looking down, and her hair hid her eyes. She wore a short-sleeved white shirt, black pants, and worn-out brown boots. What do you want? She asked, her gentle voice carried by the winter wind. Naruto could have told her that he was here looking for the source of the ice and snow. He could have told her he was searching for members to join his peerage. She possessed yoki. According to his detector, she had to have had some knowledge about the evil pieces. He could have told her he was curious about where everyone around this village was. Aren't you cold? He asked with a tilt of his head. But he didn't. Because right now he forgot about his original purpose and was too busy looking at a girl his age wearing light clothing in such cold weather. The girl looked up and blue met blue, but while his eyes resembled sapphires, hers resembled ice. Cold? She asked curiously, like she was unaware of what that was. Yumie? Naruto asked unsurely. The girl was silent as she pondered this before speaking. I don't get cold. Really? Naruto asked with a raised brow. Was she an ice-type yokai? I do not get cold because I am the cold, she explained further. You are the cold? Naruto repeated in confusion. What did that mean? What do you want? She repeated her first question, ignoring his confusion. Oh right. My name is Naruto Astaroth, and I heard the stories about the sudden blizzards hitting this place, and I wanted to see for myself. Naruto explained. I was hoping I could find the cause of it while I was here. I see, she said before pausing. In that case, you have found it. I have? Naruto blinked before pointing at her. So it was you. He was only answered with silence. So did you decide to give this village the gift of winter? She remained silent, but he noticed her slightly flinch. Where is everyone? Silence. So you're here by yourself then? Flinch. Silence. You must be strong if you were able to change the natural weather of this place for so long. Flinch. Silence. Well, I have a question for you. Naruto started but sighed when he was greeted once more with silence. I wanted to know if you would consider joining my peerage. I could really use someone with your gift. That got a response from her, but it was one he wasn't expecting. Gift. Her voice held a tint of venom. You think this is a gift? I'm sure. Naruto tried uncertainly. Leave. Her voice was no longer gentle, but as cold as the frost around them. Huh? Naruto asked, taken back by her sudden change in tone. You've come after me because of my powers. Her voice was like a whisper in the wind, but he still heard her. But just like the others who have tried to take me, you will fail. The sudden shout was followed with a sudden burst of wind so fierce that Naruto had to shield his face as he took a few steps back. Oh, what's the big deal? He sputtered. What? I thought you wanted me because of my power? I'm just giving you a taste of it, she said as she swung her arm. The next thing Naruto knew was that he was slammed into a nearby tree after getting hit by a powerful gust of wind and snow. Naruto winced and glared at the girl only for his eyes to widen when he saw the white-haired girl raise both arms. Ice began to form around her and took the form of spikes. Pointy spikes, he added mildly as he jumped away, gulping a bit when he saw the frozen weapons impeded in the tree he was leaning against seconds ago. Hey, no need to launch sharp pointy objects at me. Can't we talk about this? Naruto asked hopefully. We could. The girl allowed, causing Naruto to smile. But that smile was wiped off when she continued. But that doesn't mean we will. Damn it! Naruto cursed as he rolled out of the way of the incoming frozen projectiles. I'm pretty sure Sarorg and Rias didn't have it this rough when they had Kisha and Akino join them, Naruto said as he watched the girl in front of him warily. Mao, where is he? Rias complained. Must you be so childish, Rias? A young girl with short black hair wearing glasses asked. Of course. I'm only 10. Mao, Sona-chan, you're younger than me, so you should be more childish too, Rias said with a pout. Era, it seems like Rias-chan is as lively as ever, another younger girl said. She had long black hair tied into a ponytail and purple eyes. I just want to see Naruto and I. It's been forever since I've last seen him, Rias defended. He visited you a few months ago on your birthday, Rias, Sona countered with a raised brow, looking far more mature than someone her age should be. So this is where everyone is, they heard someone say. Turning, Rias smiled as she greeted her older cousin. Sarorg. You're here, Rias said with a smile, running to hug him. Rias, it's good to see you again, he said with a smile as he returned her hug. When he first met her, he didn't know how to act. On one hand, he knew she was not responsible for his father's behavior towards him, but on the other, he was still a child, and he couldn't help but feel jealous that she was the one who inherited the power of destruction, while he did not. But as time went by, he realized that just like how it wasn't his fault that he didn't inherit the power, it wasn't her fault that she did. And Naruto had been right about her. She was a very sweet girl. Hello, Sarorg, I take it that this is your queen you've been speaking about, Sona said, looking at the blonde girl next to him. Yes, this is Kisha, he introduced. A pleasure to meet you, the blonde queen said with a bow. Era, how nice. Another queen to talk to, Akino said with a smile. Sarorg, is Naruto and I with you? Rias asked as he looked around the older boy in hope of seeing the blonde Astaroth. I'm afraid not. I haven't seen him since he went on his peerage hunt, he answered, causing the younger girls to look at him in confusion. Peerage hunt? What do you mean? Sona asked curiously. Seems he's a bit down since bother Rias and I have a member of peerage while he doesn't. So he told me he would find someone to join before his birthday. Chances are he's still out searching, he explained. But don't worry, chances are he's either found someone or he's just goofing around having fun. I am so not having fun, Naruto shouted as he bobbed and weaved around to avoid any incoming ice attacks. Good, you're not supposed to, the girl said in a calm tone as she fired another flurry of ice spears. Why do you have to be so mean, Snowflake-chan? Naruto asked as he ducked away from another ice spike. The onslaught of ice and snow suddenly stopped, and Naruto took this moment to look at the girl who stared at him with a raised brow. Snowflake-chan? She asked with a hint of curiosity. Well, I don't really know your name, and your hair is as white as snow, so I thought it would fit. Naruto shrugged. There was a moment of silence. I see. And the blizzard continued once more. If you didn't like the name, you could have just said so, Naruto said with a wince as an ice spike grazed his shoulder. Screw this. You want to fight? I'll give you one, Naruto shouted, raising his arm, and 3 chains shot out of each hand. He began to swing them around, crushing the ice before it reached this. Seeing this, the white-haired girl paused and looked at him with a frown. I see. Like me, you also possess a curse, she stated, causing Naruto to look at her with a frown. Curse? What are you talking about? This is just the chain magic I inherited from my mother, Naruto stated, and it was true. It took him some time to learn how to use his mother's chain magic, and he was proud of it. No way was he going to let someone call it a curse. Call it whatever you wish, it won't change a thing, she countered. Why are you trying to freeze my ass? I just wanted you to join my peerage, Naruto said, hoping to resolve this peacefully. I refuse to fall for your tricks, she stated, frowning. Tricks? I'm being straightforward. I want you to join my peerage, Naruto insisted. Again, your tricks won't work. I once believed people accepted me for my abilities, but I won't fall for it again. She repeated, her voice getting colder along with the temperature. The only one who accepted me was my mother. She was the only one who I could trust. Now that she is gone, I have no one. No one? What about your other family or your friends? Naruto asked, fishing for information. Her calm face finally broke as she showed him a bitter smile. Family and friends? On the day of my birth, the temperatures around here began to drop. As I got older, the village got colder. The villagers think of me as some vengeful spirit who is here to freeze them to death. My good-for-nothing father left, saying that my mother was nothing more than a plaything to him, and that he refused to acknowledge a half-breed like me, whatever that means. My mother's family blamed me for her death. Here she paused, and Naruto could see the anger in her eyes. But he looked at her curiously. Half-breed? Did that mean she was only half yokai or something? After her death, I was constantly blamed because my cures kept getting out of control. Soon ice covered the land and the people were angrier. But they were also scared. I was killing their land and slowly killing them. It didn't matter that it was an accident. The only thing they saw was a threat they wanted to get rid of. The wind around her began to pick up. And now you show up out of nowhere saying you want me to join this peerage thing because of my cures? The very thing that has kept me isolated. I don't believe it for a second, she shouted, firing a wave of ice at Naruto, who jumped out of the way. The Snowflake-chan, calm down, she shouted over the freezing winds. Earlier you asked why I decided to give this village the gift of winter, she said before scoffing in disdain. Winter is no gift. Are you sure? I've always liked winter, Naruto said before hopping back as ice spikes sprouted from the ground where he was once standing. There is nothing to like about winter. Winter represents death, darkness, suffering. I am winter. The pain I bring is absolute, the misery I bring is absolute, the demise I bring is absolute. With that final shout, she slammed both palms into the ground, and snow soon turned into ice. And the ice soon transformed into a field of frozen spikes. Well, now this is an unpleasant turn of events, Naruto said in an even tone as the spikes spread towards him. He quickly sprouted his wings and flew to the air, not wanting to be skewered. What the? She mumbled, her eyes widened a bit when she saw his wings. Are you trying to kill me? Naruto shouted from his place in the air. Yes, was her simple answer, causing Naruto to stumble a bit. So blunt, he muttered with a sweat drop. So you are like me, she observed, causing Naruto to raise a brow. Like you? What do you mean? What he saw next shocked him. From out of her back, 2 black wings that resembled his sprouted out. You're a devil? He asked, pointing a finger at her as she tilted her head to the side. Devil? Is that what we are? I suppose it is fitting from all the harm I bring, she mused before leaping into the air. Damn, I was really hoping I could gain the advantage by flying, Naruto grumbled. She was able to create powerful gusts of wind. That was definitely going to mess with his flying. Now that I know what I am, least die, she said, and ice began to grow on her hands until they resembled claws. Sharp and pointy, of course, Naruto deadpanned. He waved his arms around, building up his magic. Explosion formula. 2 magic seals appeared above and below his opponent, while 3 more that were lined up together appeared on each of her side. At the center of the seals was the Astaroth clan symbol, and on the edge of the circles was a variety of letters, numbers, and symbols, making it resemble a strange formula. Snapping his fingers, he watched in satisfaction as the ice-wielding devil was consumed by the following explosion. He frowned though when he saw the smoke cleared, and instead of the girl he saw a block of ice. It began to crack and break, showing the girl was unharmed. You made a shield of ice, huh? You're just making me wanting you to join my peerage more and more, Naruto said with a small smile before pointing his finger until his hand resembled a gun. Demon bullet, he said as a ball of demonic energy formed at the end of his finger before being fired towards her. The bullet was blocked by a shield of ice that appeared between the attack and the target. TCH. I'm not done yet, Snowflake-chan. Naruto clicked his teeth in annoyance before multiple chains shot out of his body and headed straight towards her. Seeing this, the ice-using devil was about to dodge when Naruto noticed something. Her body suddenly went tense, and her eyes widened as panic filled them. She threw her head back and released a scream of pain. Aha! Her scream filled the air as the winds picked up until they were in the middle of a blizzard that was much stronger than what she previously created. Naruto watched in fascination as his chain stopped moving before freezing and crumbled into shards of ice. Struggling to keep his place in the air, he saw that small patch of ice formed on his body in various spots. Just as he was about to fly away to leave the range of the blizzard, it suddenly stopped. He looked to see the girl breathing heavily. So that's why you think it's a curse? You're able to use ice magic, but you don't have proper control of it, Naruto observed. And it was because of that you ended up hurting the villagers. Shut up, she hissed with a glare as she regained her breath. It's not your fault. You said you were a half-breed and your father left, right? So that means you lived surrounded by humans with no one to help you control your powers, Naruto said. I said shut up, she repeated as she created 2 ice spears before launching them towards him. I get that you're scared of your powers, Naruto started as he ducked away from the spears. But you don't have to stay here alone. Come with me. I can introduce you to people who can help you control your power. In fact, my godmother is one of the strongest ice-using devils in the underworld. The girl paused, and it looked like she was considering it before shaking her head and charged at him, her hands covered with ice in the shape of claw. Naruto cursed as he flew to avoid it, but she was hot on his trail. The two began an aerial dance with Naruto trying to avoid being cut to shreds and the girl dodging any bullets he fired. Come on! You can't tell me that you aren't interested in the opportunity of controlling your powers? What about your mother? Would she want you to waste your life living in this frozen village alone? Naruto shouted as his cheek was cut by one of her claws. Empty promises. Empty promises that I won't fall for, she said, going for another sweep, but Naruto leaned back to dodge it. I do not care if you are interested in my curse. I won't let you take advantage of me. I'm not trying to take advantage. I just want to help, Naruto tried as he descended to the ground with her following. Lies. You want me to join this peerage of yours. You even admitted earlier that you are interested in my powers. It is because of that you are here in the first place, she hissed, summoning a block of ice. Unleashing a battle cry, she launched it, hoping to crush the blonde. Seeing this, Naruto clapped both his hands so they resembled a gun and fired a larger bullet. It's always the same. It's always my powers that ruin my life, and I'm sick of it, she shouted, and Naruto was surprised to see some tears forming at the corner of her eyes. First, my powers make it so cold that my mother gets sick, slowly killing her. My father leaves me because I'm some disgusting half-breed. My mother's family hates me for killing her. The villagers want me dead for freezing their land. Earlier you asked me where everyone was. Well, I killed them all. They attacked me, and when I panicked I accidentally froze them to death. Now you, some random devil, comes here looking for me because he wants me to join this peerage thing and use me for my powers. She took a deep breath to calm herself down. She was so out of it that she said things she didn't mean to. Naruto looked at her with wide eyes as she got that off her chest before frowning. Now that he thought about it, from her point of view it did seem like her powers dictated her life. Wow, no wonder she thinks her powers are a curse. You're right, he said softly, and his sudden agreement actually shocked her enough to pause in her attacks. The winds died out, and the area was filled with silence. What? She asked incredulously. This whole fight he was persistent in him join this peerage of his, and now he's agreeing with her. The original purpose for me being here was to find the source of the recent snowstorms, which turns out to be you. Once I found out, I wanted you to join my peerage because I knew you were strong. So you're right, I'm basically here for your powers, he admitted softly. But not anymore. What do you mean? She asked suspiciously. I still want to help you, but if you don't want to join my peerage, then that's fine, Naruto said, smiling at the surprised girl. But still, just because you won't be joining my peerage doesn't mean we can't be friends. Friends? She repeated with wide eyes. Yup. What do you say, Snowflake-chan? Let's become friends, and then I can introduce you to my godmother. She can definitely help you with your ice power. Naruto offered, his grin widening and eyes honest. Be but my curse. I am just like winter. I only bring harm to other. She shot back, losing her composure. Oh right, earlier you said you bring pain, misery and demise to others. Well, let me tell you something, Snowflake-chan. I am a firm believer of no pain, no gain. You didn't bring misery to me because I love fighting strong opponents, and you were definitely a strong opponent. And that thing about meeting my demise? I won't be meeting my end anytime soon. After all, I still have to surpass my father and become a Satan, Naruto said with a confident grin. Now come on. Earlier so said you were alone for so long. I don't know about you, but I would hate that, so let's be friends. Let me help you by ending your solitude, Naruto said, his grin shifting into a soft, hopeful smile. What? Besides, I don't know about you, but I don't think about all those negative thoughts about winter. Personally, I love it. Seeing a clear field covered in a blanket of white snow is a really beautiful sight. Naruto continued. The girl was looking at him in disbelief. This wasn't supposed to happen. When people found out about her powers, they were supposed to react negatively, not offer her friendship. She had no idea how to react. She looked in his eyes and saw that he really had no more desire of her joining this peerage of his. There was just he just wanted to help her and be friends. She had not received that kind of look or kindness in a long time. Not since her mother. And it felt nice. Really nice. Exactly what is a peerage? She asked after a moment of silence. Huh? Naruto asked, tilting his head. The reason we fought was because you wanted me to join your peerage. I have no idea what that is, and if we are to be friends, then I should at least know why we fought in the first place. She hastily explained. Oh, well, you see, we devils have something called evil pieces, which is basically a set of chess pieces that every top-class devils receive. After the Great War, the devil population diminished, so my father, Ajuka Beelzebub, created the evil pieces to reincarnate other beings into devils. Each piece offers a different power. I would be king since it's my peerage, and anyone else would be reincarnated as a devil and join my peerage as my servant. Naruto explained. So you want me to be a slave? She asked with a frown. He wanted her to be his slave. That did not sound appealing at all. And here she thought she could actually have a friend. That's just a technical term. I'm not very fond of it either. I'd prefer the term comrade if I'm being honest. Naruto admitted, hoping he didn't offend her or anything. I see. And you wanted me to join your peerage because of my powers, she stated, but raised a brow when he shook his head. That's only partially true, Naruto said, causing her to frown in confusion. Partially? What do you mean? It was your powers that attracted me, but it was your potential that sealed the deal, Naruto explained with a grin. My potential? What do you mean? She asked with a confused expression. Exactly what it sounds like, Snowflake-chan. I can tell that you don't have full control of your powers. Now, I don't mean to sound arrogant, but I'm pretty strong for a devil in my age group, and despite the fact that you haven't completely mastered your powers, you still put up a good fight, Naruto said before continuing in a softer tone. I get that when it comes to your powers you've only focused on the negative, but if you're able to control it, you would see the positives that come with it. Let me help you, Snowflake-chan. Let me show you that your curse is actually a gift. Let me be your friend. The ice-wielding devil just stared at him, digesting what she had heard. Could it be true? Could she trust this boy she had just met? If she was being honest with herself, then she would admit that she wanted to trust him. She wanted to so bad. She was tired. Tired of losing control of her powers. Tired of unintentionally hurting others. Tired of always being on guard. But most of all, she was tired of being alone. You're serious? She whispered, ducking her head so he wouldn't see her eyes. Very, Naruto said in a quiet but serious tone. Slowly the girl walked towards Naruto, who just watched her. When she was in arm's length of him, she looked up and her eyes were a bit moist. This isn't a trick, right? She asked hopefully. I swear on the honor of my clan that this is no trick. I wish to be friends with you and I wish to help you, Naruto reassured. She looked at him carefully before nodding. She may have not known much about devil culture, but she knew that swearing on the honor of your clan was equivalent to a binding contract. To make an oath on your clan name, and then breaking it, would bring shame to him and his family. He did not seem like some cruel, horrible being like legends typically depict devils as. He was offering her help, something that no one else has done before. She looked into his eyes one more time and saw no deceit. Sighing to herself, she made her decision. Whether it was for better or worse, she'll just have to wait and see. What piece am I going to be? She asked after making her decision. What? Naruto blinked in confusion. The evil pieces. Which piece am I going to be? She asked. Oh, well, based on our fight, I'd say you would work best as a queen. You're definitely strong enough, Naruto answered after he gave it some thought. I see, so how are we doing this? She asked curiously. Doing what? Naruto asked. Turning me into your queen, she simply answered. Oh, well, I would just take out the queen piece and it would have to be touching you. Then wait a minute. Naruto paused his explanation and looked at her with wide eyes. What do you mean turning you into my queen? I thought that was your original purpose. Have you changed your mind? No, but the whole fight started because you didn't want to join my peerage. Now all of a sudden you want to join it? Man, I knew girls were confusing, but come on. This makes no sense? Naruto said, rubbing his head in thought. Wasn't she just trying to kill him a minute ago after he asked her to join? Yeah, girls were definitely confusing. She merely stared at him before her lips twitched into a small smile. Ah, it seems like my new king is quite foolish, she said, shaking her head a bit. Foolish? How am I foolish? Naruto asked with a frown. I have never been accepted by the humans here. Other than my mother, I was seen as a demon, while my father saw me more as trash than a demon. Sprouting these wings did not help me with my image either. But now I know that I am a devil, or at least half devil. My whole life I have had many questions but no answers. And then you show up and have given them to me. She explained as Naruto listened attentively. What am I? Why am I cursed? Why won't anyone help me? Why must I be alone? I have asked myself these questions for years and you have answered them. I did? He asked. As far as he could tell, all he did was try and get her to join his peerage, fight her, and then offer her help and friendship. You have showed me that I am a devil, or at least half devil. You have told me that my curse is only a curse if I think of it as such. What's more is that you have offered me a chance to control my powers, something no one has done before. I have never been offered help until today. And I am alone because I chose to be alone. She admitted quietly. I am alone because I have allowed the fear of my powers to control me. She looked into his eyes and Naruto saw determination in them. I am done letting that fear control me. Earlier you asked me if my mother would want me to live alone like this, and I know she would not. If you are offering me help and companionship, two things that I have craved for so long, then it is only fair that I help my new friend as well. Naruto could only gape at her as a full-blown grin spread on her face and her usual cold eyes were now filled with warmth. And my new friend has been looking for people to join his peerage, she finished. Chirp chirp chirp. Eh? Was the only intelligent thing Naruto could think of. Again, it seems like me king is more foolish than I thought. She sighed dramatically. So what you're trying to say is Naruto started, but she finished it. I will join your peerage if you help me with my powers. She knew it wasn't the smartest move she could have made. She still didn't know much about him, but this seemed like a win-win situation for them both. He would gain an ally, and she would no longer be alone. Naruto just stared at her incredulously before speaking in a slow, disbelieving voice. You're serious? Of course I am. This would benefit us both. As long as you keep your end of the deal, I shall serve under you. So what do you say? She asked, amused by his flabbergasted expression. Naruto just looked at her blankly before throwing his head back and laughing. Man, Snowflake-chan, the minute I decide to give up on the idea of you joining, you do this. Something tells me you're definitely going to keep me on my toes, Naruto said as he dug into his pocket. She watched as he pulled out a case. Opening it, he pulled out a chess piece. A queen. Alright, this is your last chance. Know that either way I'll help you control your powers and we'll still be friends. So one more time, are you sure about this? He asked as he stared at her, searching for any doubt. He found none. Well, damn. She was serious. I have already thought about it, and my decision stands, she stated confidently. Alright then, let's do this, he said as the queen piece was engulfed by gold light. He was about to speaking before he blinked as a thought hit him. Smiling sheepishly, he looked at the girl who was watching the queen piece curiously. This might be a bad time to ask this boot, what's your name? He asked with an awkward smile, realizing he never asked her. The girl looks at her blankly before smiling a bit. She covered her mouth with her hand and released a slight chuckle. I forgot I never introduced myself. To think this whole time you've been recruiting, and you don't even know my name. To think that earlier today I was all alone, and now I am following such a foolish king. I guess that old saying is true. You never know what tomorrow will bring, she stated. Once again you called me a foolish king. I really hope this doesn't become your catchphrase or something, Naruto deadpanned. Well, my name is not Snowflake-chan like you've been calling me. It's Sylvia, she corrected. Sylvia? Naruto repeated, testing the name. It was a nice name. Yes, Sylvia Lucifuge. Silence. Sylvia Lucifuge. That was her name. And it was her name that shocked him into silence. Or more precisely, it was her last name that shocked her into silence. Lucifuge. He had done his research of devil history, and Lucifuge was a very famous name. Or infamous depending on how you look at it. The Lucifuge clan was very powerful devils and big supporters of the old Satan faction. More precisely, they served directly under the original Lucifer and his lineage. During the civil war between the old Satan faction and the anti-Satan faction, the Lucifuge was a crucial part of the old Satan army. But more importantly, if Sylvia was a member of this clan, then he had another reason to introduce her to his godmother, who just happens to be a member of the very same clan. Because not only could Graphia teach her how to control her powers, this would also mean that Sylvia had family. Family she had been craving for since her mother's death. From what he knew, the Lucifuge were a clan of pure-blood devil who firmly believed in the ways of the old Satans, and after their defeat the Lucifuge clan was practically wiped out, and any surviving members dispersed around the world. Since she was ignorant of the devil world, he didn't have to worry about her being one of those devils who opposed the current Satans, but still. What were the chances of this happening? In the meantime, Sylvia was starting to feel unnerved. Not a single word came out of Naruto's mouth as he stared at Sylvia with unmasked shock. Did he hear her right? Aren't you supposed to be turning me into your queen now, Naruto? The white-haired girl asked nervously. She had no idea why the blonde was staring at her like that. Suddenly a frightening thought reached her mind and she asked in a tentative voice. Or perhaps you have changed your mind? She bit her lip waiting for his answer, but he was still quiet and doubts started to plague her mind. Did he no longer want her? Did he no longer want to help her? Did he think she was a lost cause? Unable to handle the silence, she held her hand up and snow began to dance around it. A second later, her once empty hand now held a snowball. A snowball she promptly threw at his face. What was that for? Naruto sputtered as he wiped the snow away from his face. It's considered poor manners to stare at a lady like that. She sniffed as he crossed her arms and raising her chin defiantly. This confident pose melted in about 3 seconds before adopting a more nervous one. Why were you staring? Are you having second thoughts about me joining your peerage? Huh? Naruto asked dumbly before his eyes widened. What? Why would you think that? I still want you to join my peerage if you're still willing. Hearing this caused Sylvia to release a breath she didn't even know she was holding. It was strange, she idly noticed, that just a few moments ago she was dead set on refusing his invitation, and now she panicked about the thought of him taking it back. I see, then why are you staring at me like that? She asked with a frown. Naruto thought about telling her before shaking his head. He would keep it a surprise for now. No reason, it's just I can't wait to introduce you to my godmother, Naruto said with a grin. He absent-mindedly wondered how Graphia would react to this. She is the one who can help me, right? Sylvia asked with a hopeful smile. Yup, when it comes to ice she's one of the best. Plus she can help you get a better understanding of devil culture. I can't think of a better teacher for you, Naruto explained. Hopefully it will also give you two a chance to bond as family, he mentally added before smiling. Anyway, sorry for making you wait. Are you ready for this? He asked as the queen piece began to glow gold and began to hover above his hand. Sylvia stared at the piece for a bit before nodding with a smile. As I'll ever be. Okay then, let's do this. Now give me a second, this is going to be my first time doing this, Naruto said before clearing his throat. I, Naruto Astaroth, ask upon you, Sylvia Lucifuge, to embrace new life as a devil and become my comrade. With this new life, as my queen, rejoice. Sylvia watched transfixed. As Naruto began his chant, the piece floated towards her until it melted into her chest. She gasped when she felt a sudden surge of power before a feeling of exhaustion hit her. She stumbled a bit, but Naruto was there to help her. You okay? He asked her. Yes, just a bit tired, she explained, taking a deep breath. Yeah, your body is just adjusting to the evil piece. Give it a minute and you'll feel better in no time, Naruto explained. Okay, I think I'm good, Sylvia said after a minute as she took a step back. She held her hands up and seemed to be studying them. I don't look any different, but I defiantly feel a change. Congratulations, Snowflake-chan. You went from a devil/human hybrid into a reincarnated devil, Naruto said with a grin. Why did you call me Snowflake-chan? I already told you my name, the newly made queen asked, tilting her head to the side. We're going to be friends, right? Well, sometimes friends make up nicknames for each other. Besides, it suits you. Not only is your hair white as snow, but no two snowflakes are identical. Just like a snowflake, you're one of a kind, Naruto explained with a smile. For some unknown reason, Sylvia felt her cheeks heat up. Was that a compliment? It sounded like one. Unsure of how to respond, she remained silent. Now that that's taken care of, are you ready to go? He asked gleefully. He finally had his first peerage member. Not only that, but his first member happens to be a total badass ice-wielding queen. Yup. He hit the jackpot. Take that, Serorg. Go where? Sylvia asked with a confused frown. Now that she thought about it, they kind of jumped the gun. They did not really talk about what they would do after she became his queen. All she knew was that she was to serve under him as his servant. Although he did say he preferred the term comrade. To my house, of course, Naruto said as if it was obvious. Oh, are we going there to visit your godmother? She asked curiously. We can if you want, but I thought we'd get you settled in your new home first, Naruto said, looking at the sky, therefore missing her shocked expression. New home? She repeated. What do you mean by that? What do I mean? I mean that once we move you into my family's house, one can meet my godmother, Naruto said as though she should know this. I'm moving into your family's house? She asked, still not getting it. Of course, where else would you go? Naruto asked, perplexed. I didn't think I'd go anywhere. I thought I would continue to live here while I visited your home, or you would visit me, Sylvia exclaimed. She had lived in this village her whole life, and while it may have been filled with angry and scared villagers, she was still apprehensive about leaving. I thought you said you hated being alone? Why would I leave my new queen alone when my family has a perfectly fine house that has more than enough room for another? Naruto countered. Wouldn't your parents mind having a complete stranger living in their home? The white-haired queen asked hesitantly. They had just met today, and he already invited her to live in his house. While she was not the most adept at this kind of things, she had a feeling that this was not a normal occurrence. It's perfectly fine. In fact, most devils have their peerage live in the same place as them. My father's peerage has been living in his house years before I was born, Naruto explained. I see, Sylvia said as she took a glance at what was once her home. The idea of leaving it was strange. She had grown up here, and while it was filled with painful memories, she also had some happier ones with her mother. Speaking of which, are we leaving now, or do we have some spare time? She asked. Sure, we have plenty of time, so no rush. Pack what you need and do what you have to do, and then we'll head out, Naruto said with a grin. Thank you, she said with a grateful smile before turning around. If she was leaving, then there was one thing she had to do first. After walking through the barren streets, she finally reached her destination. It was an old, worn-out one-floor home. She did not enter through the door, instead walking around the building towards the backyard. Once there, she continued her path until she reached her destination. Underneath a large tree that was dead due to the cold was a small makeshift grave. And etched on the grave were the words, Jundo Shiryuki. A loving mother with a soul as pure as snow. Hello, Kachan, Sylvia muttered as she stared at the grave. It's been a while since my last visit, and a lot has changed. She took a deep breath before kneeling down in front of the grave as she tried to organize her thoughts. First of all, I want to apologize. I know that my behavior must have disappointed you. I let myself wallow in sorrow. I know it's not much of an excuse, but it is all I have. But something happened today, and I am done making excuses. I have met someone who is willing to help me with my powers. She continued, smiling a bit in the end. I don't know if you knew this, but apparently I am half devil, but I have been reborn as a full devil. I was a bit surprised when I found out, and it made me feel more of a monster than I originally did, but my new friend told me to accept myself powers, devil heritage, and all that comes with it. I'm no longer running away, Kachan. I am going to live my life like you would have wanted, she explained as she stood up. She was startled when she felt a hand rest on her shoulder. She turned to see it was Naruto. Hello, Shiryuki-san, my name is Naruto Astaroth, and I'm Sylvia's new friend. I just thought I should let you know that you no longer have to worry about your daughter, Naruto said as he bowed to the grave. She's under my care now, and you can be sure that I'll take good care of her. I guess this is goodbye, Kachan. I'll be leaving this village soon, doing who knows what, Sylvia said. If you're curious, we'll be having kick-ass adventures, Naruto said with a grin. Sylvia stared at him blankly before shaking her head a bit in amusement. Well, there you go, Kachan. Apparently I'll be having kick-ass adventures, as my new king so elegantly put it, she said with a small smile. She bowed her head and remained silent for a few minutes. All right, I'm ready, she said as she raised her head. You sure? You don't have any bags or anything, Naruto said, pointing out her lack of luggage, but she just shrugged. I really don't have anything of value to be honest, she explained, causing Naruto to nod. Alright then, I guess we better go. It's getting pretty late, Naruto said as he looked at the setting thought before a thought hit him and he paled. Is something wrong? She asked, noticing how pale he got all of a sudden. Yeah, I just realized how long I've been here, he answered. And that is a problem because? She trailed off, wondering why he looked so frightened. Well, truth is today is my birthday. My family and friends are probably waiting for me back home, waiting for me, but I've been out all day looking for you. No doubt my mom's worried, and when she gets worried she gets violent, Naruto said as a shiver ran down his spine. His mom was so going to kill him. I see. Well, if it's any consolation, happy birthday, she said. Besides, I'm sure they will understand once you tell them what happened. Thanks, Naruto said with a small smile, but he was still scared. His mother believed in the hit first ask questions later method. Oh well, no use in prolonging the inevitable, Naruto thought as he raised his arm and his family crest appeared in front of them. What is this? Sylvia asked curiously. The last time she saw a circle like this, they exploded around her. Transport circle, think of it like a shortcut, Naruto said as the circle began to glow a bright golden light. Interesting, she said as she studied the circle in front of them. Well, let's get going, Naruto said as he grabbed her hand and walked towards the circle. Once they touched it, their bodies seemed to have phased through it. Once they completely entered the seal, it disappeared, leaving behind the frozen village. Beelzebub Manor. Where the hell is he? An irate Kushina shouted as she paced around the room, swinging her arms around frantically. Kushi-chan, maybe you should calm down, Ajuka said, trying to get his wife to settle down. Big mistake. Calm down? Are you telling me to calm down? Our baby has been missing all day. In fact, you should be just as worried as me, you jackass. I am worried, but it won't do us any good to get all worked up. Remember, I sent the rest of my peerage to go look for him, Ajuka said, but again all that did to was anger her more. Well, excuse me for being worried. In case you didn't know, my only child is currently missing, and we have no idea where he is. As his mother, I think I am well within my rights to be a little worried. Of course you are, but still, he was interrupted but his wife. So don't go telling me what to do, Ajuka. I don't care if you are a Satan, I will kick your ass. Now excuse me, I'm going back to worrying about my son. And with that, Kushina continued her worried pacing, wondering where her son is. Ajuka decided to sit on a couch and remain silent, hoping to avoid his wife's wrath. Hopefully the rest of his peerage would be able to find Naruto soon, or Kushina would soon get physical. Sitting down on another couch in the same room was Surzex and Grafia. Kushina-chan is as scary as always, Surzex said with a smile as he watched his best friend get chewed out. True, but as a mother worried about her son, it is well in her rights to be worried, Grafia supplied as she calmly sipped a cup of tea. True, I wonder where Naruto-chan is though, Surzex said. From what I heard earlier from Serog-sama, it appears that Naruto-sama went out on something called a peerage hunt, the silver-haired woman answered. A peerage hunt? What's that? Surzex asked curiously. According to Serog-sama, it appears that Naruto-sama was a bit downtrodden, that both he and Ria-sama were able to find members for his peerage while he has not. It would appear that he had made a vow to find someone by his birthday, and today is his deadline, Grafia answered as she set her cup down on the coffee table in front of them. Ah, so his rival was able to beat him, and now he has to catch up, Surzex said with a nod as he knew about the two boys' rivalry. So it would appear, Grafia answered stoic-faced. Why the hell are you two so calm? Kushina shouted as she pointed at the godparents of her son. Why? Because you're doing enough worrying for everyone in the room, Surzex answered casually, only to receive a punch in the face that sent him crashing into a nearby wall. Ow. This is why you should think before you speak, Grafia said, not at all affected by the violence towards her husband. What about you, Grafia-chan? Kushina asked, turning towards her friend. I am worried, but one of us has to remain calm. It will not benefit us to let our emotions get the best of us right now, Grafia explained. I suppose you're right, Kushina conceded with a sigh. Ajuka, who was listening, could only gape at what transpired. Are you kidding me? I just told you the same thing and I get yelled at, but when she does you listen? Ajuka asked incredulously. Do you want me to yell at you some more? Kushina asked dangerously as she glared at him. No, dear, Ajuka replied as he shook his head rapidly. From where he was still embedded in the wall, Surzek snickered. Whipped. The red-haired Satan muttered, but loud enough for Ajuka to hear. With a tick mark forming on his head, he calmly picked up a vase that rested on a nearby corner table. Without sparing a glance, he threw the vase, smirking when he heard Surzek's yelp of pain. "Oh. What the hell, Ajuka-kun? You know that it's against the bro code for one bro to hit another bro below the belt." Surzek wheezed in pain. "I'm not your bro," Ajuka deadpan. It was hard to tell whether Surzek's tears came from Ajuka's quick dismissal or from the pain he was in. It was at that moment that a golden seal with the Astaroth symbol appeared, and in a flash of light 2 kids were standing in the room. "Naru-chan," Kushina explained as she lunged for her son, pulling him into a bone-crushing hug. "Haika-chan," Naruto gasped out as his face turned blue from lack of oxygen. "Kushina, I know you're happy that he's safe, but you're killing our son," Ajuka pointed out. Kushina blinked at his words before glancing at her son, whose head was slumped and wasn't moving. With a yelp, she let go of her son, who fell to the ground. After a few minutes of Naruto greedily sucking in some much-needed air, he stood up and was faced with the worried face of his mother. "Are you okay, Naru-chan?" the redhead asked. "Yeah, I'm good," Naruto said as he stretched his back, wincing when he heard the cracks. "That's good." Kushina sighed in relief before she grabbed the collar of his shirt with both hands and began to vigorously shake him as she snarled angrily. "Because you are in so much trouble." "What?" Naruto asked, his voice carried his head bobbing back and forth. "Where have you been? Do you have any idea how worried I was?" 3IKNE explain, Naruto said, starting to get really dizzy. "Kushina, maybe you should let him go so he can explain," Ajuka suggested. Kushina paused in her actions and stared at her husband for a bit before shouting, "Shut up, Ajuka. Can't you see I'm trying to discipline our son?" And with that she continued to shake and yell at her son, who looked like he was about to pass out. Perhaps I can explain," a timid voice asked, a female voice to be exact. The 4 devils blinked in surprise before their head whirled to a white-haired girl who was standing there looking incredibly uncomfortable. They continued to stare in silence, and the girl wriggled her hands together, her nervousness obvious to everyone. "Hello there," Ajuka said, finally breaking the silence. "Hello, sir," the white-haired girl greeted back. "Who the hell are you?" Kushina asked bluntly, causing the adults to sweat drop. "My name is Sylvia and I am Naruto's queen," she answered, causing them to look at her in shock. "You're his what?" Ajuka asked with wide eyes. "His queen, you know, for his peerage," Sylvia explained. "Growl," Naruto gurgled as he was able to break free from his mother's hold. The shock of the news caused her to pause in her discipline. He stumbled a bit and fought for balance before standing up straight. "That's why I was gone. I met my new queen," Naruto announced with a grin. His grin fell when he saw his godmother. He sighed, knowing something was going to happen when they learned Sylvia's full name. He just hoped that something would be good. "Anyway, let me introduce you. This is the first official member of my peerage and Queen Sylvia Lucifuge," he said, and the adults stared at him in shock. "Naru-chan, I don't think I heard you correctly. It sounded like you said Lucifuge." Surzek was the first one to speak. "That's because I did." But that would mean Kushina trailed off as she glanced at Grafia, whose usual stoic face was broken, and she was staring at Sylvia with wide eyes. "Yep, that's what I thought when I found out." Naruto nodded as he noticed her reaction. "Is there a problem with my name?" Sylvia asked worriedly, wondering why the silver-haired woman was staring at her like that. "No, nothing wrong, it's just a surprise," Ajuka said as he studied the girl. He remembered fighting many Lucifuges during the Civil War, and remembered how strong they were. But they were also very loyal to the Lucifer family and heavy supporters of the old Satan faction. Hopefully this one was like Grafia, who supported the anti-Satan faction. Naruto saw the look on his father's face and noticed similar looks on his mother and godfather's, so he decided to reassure them. "Relax, she's pretty much ignorant of the devil world. When I met her, she didn't even know she was half devil," Naruto explained before turning towards his queen. "Anyway, Sylvia, let me introduce you to my family. This is my father, Ajuka Beelzebub, one of the 4 Satans. Being a Satan means he is one of the leaders of the underworld." "Hello there, it's nice to meet you," Ajuka greeted with a polite smile. Since she was ignorant of the devil world, that meant she didn't share the same views as her clan, which meant he didn't have to worry. Not that he had anything against her, but this was his son's safety he had to think about. "He is the one you wish to surpass, right?" Sylvia asked as she remembered Naruto's words during their fight. Yup. The blonde nodded as his father smirked. Better keep up your training, kid. You're about 100 years too early to think you can beat me. I'm a Satan for a reason. He taunted good-naturedly. Whatever you say, old man, just wait until I kick your ass. Naruto grumbled before turning to Kushina. This is Kushina Astaroth, my mother. Hello Sylvia-chan, it's nice to meet you. Kushina greeted with a smile, and in her typical fashion she ignored all formalities and hugged the startled girl who had no idea what to do. Hello ma'am. She greeted, not sure if she should return the hug or not. The other redhead is my clown of a godfather, Surzex. Naruto said, waving a dismissive hand towards Surzex. To introduce me to your new friend like that, how cruel of you, Naruto-chan. Surzex muttered in a depressed voice as he fell to his hands and knees, a dark aura hovering above him. Oh yeah, and he's a Satan like my dad. Naruto added as an afterthought in the same indifferent tone which made the dark aura around Surzex grow. How can you show just praise to your father but be so indifferent towards me? The red-headed Satan asked, but no one paid attention. Is he okay? Sylvia asked worriedly as she was freed from Kushina's hug. He's fine. Naruto and Ajuka said in sync, more than used to Surzex's antics. Now time to introduce you to my godmother, Naruto said, causing her eyes to snap to Graphia, who was still staring at her in surprise. She is the one who can help me? Sylvia asked, hope in her voice. Like I said, when it comes to ice magic she is one of the best. Sylvia, say hello to Graphia Lucifuge, Naruto said, watching her carefully. Sylvia was about to speak but paused when she heard the woman's last name. Eyes widening, she stared at Naruto. Did you just say? That's right, Lucifuge. The very same devil clan that your father was most likely a part of, Naruto explained. But that would mean, she trailed off, unable to finish the thought. That you have family? Naruto finished as they turned to Graphia, who took a step towards them. Naruto, Graphia started. She was so shocked by this that she forgot to use honorifics like she usually does. Is she really a part of my clan? I'm not 100%, but I'm almost positive that she is. She told me that her father was a devil but left when she was younger. Lucifuge isn't a common name in the human world, it's too much of a coincidence. Well, let's find out, Ajuka said as he appeared by Sylvia's side, who jumped in surprise not seeing him move. Without warning, he pulled out an empty syringe and stabbed her in the arm. Oh. What was that for? Sylvia asked, scowling in annoyance. Who the hell just stabs a syringe in someone they just met? Sorry, but I needed a blood sample. It will help tell us if you really are related to Graphia. Ajuka apologized, but he didn't look sorry at all. He waved his arm and a small magic circle similar to Naruto's appeared in front of him. The circle began to glow as Ajuka reached into it and pulled out a strange-looking machine and a vial of blood. Now all I have to do is out both yours and Graphia's blood sample in this thing, and it will do a quick scan telling us if you're related, Ajuka said as he placed both vials in the empty slots of the machine. Everyone just stared at him strangely. Ajuka-kun, do you have a blood sample of Graphia-chan? Surzex asked the question they were all wondering. Don't ask such stupid questions, Surzex. I have it to ensure my family's safety. You never know when an imposter will show up to try and do something, Ajuka answered as though it was obvious. But the answer did not make the strange looks go away. So do you have all of our blood samples? Naruto asked curiously. Of course I do, everyone but Surzex, Ajuka answered as he pushed a few buttons on his scanner. Why don't you have any of mine? Surzex asked before a grin broke on his face as he pounded a fist in his open palm. I get it. Ajuka-kun must have so much faith in our bond of friendship that he would never fall for an imposter. Something like that. I don't need to worry about any Surzex imposters because no one will be able to reach the level of stupidity that you do, Ajuka answered, plainly still working on the scanner as it began to beep. So cruel, this must be where Naruto-chan gets his lack of respect for me, Surzex muttered as he curled up in a corner with a rain cloud over his head. No, it comes naturally, Naruto corrected as the cloud above Surzex began to rain. I thought you said Satans were the leaders of the underworld, Sylvia asked in confusion. They are, why? Naruto asked, tilting his head. And he is one of these Satans? Sylvia asked with a furrowed brow as she pointed to the sulking Surzex. Yup. But seems too immature to be a leader, Sylvia gave her honest opinion. Unfortunately, Surzex heard, and this only added to his depression as lighting began to shoot from the cloud. Not only Ajuka-kun and Naruchan but the new girl too, he muttered. Grafia ignored her husband in favor of watching Ajuka as he worked. Ajuka continued to fiddle with his scanner until his eyes widened a bit. Well, I'll bet really is a member of the Lucifuge clan, Ajuka said as his scanner vanished in a flash of light. Looks like you've found yourself a wayward clansman, Grafia. I see, was all she could say. She turned to look at the girl who was watching her cautiously. For the first time in who knows how many years, Grafia was stumped. She had no idea what to do in this situation. During the Civil War her family sided with the old faction Satan, and for a while so did she. However, she did not fight for the old Satans because she believed in their way but because it was her loyalty to her family. But as time went by she soon found that she did not agree with her clan, so she left to join the Ant-Satan faction. She knew that by doing this she would be exiling herself from her family, but she chose to fight for what she believed in and made her own family. She made do with the fact that she would forever forsake her clan, but here before her was a blood relative who, like her, did not share the original ideals of the Lucifuge. And she had no idea how to react. The two Lucifuge settled into a staring contest, unsure of what to do. Off on the side, Kushina rolled her eyes and huffed in annoyance. She snuck up behind Sylvia and pushed her into the older woman, who caught her out of instinct. Geez, Grafia-chan, you find a long-lost relative, and you just stand there. Kushina sighed in exasperation. Kushina-sama, that was highly unnecessary, Grafia said as she helped Sylvia regain her footing. But look at her, Grafia-chan. She's a long-lost relative. She's practically your little sister, Kushina gushed with a smile. Naruto watched with wide eyes as Grafia did something he never saw before. She blushed. Sure, it was only a slight coloring of her cheeks, but she was definitely blushing. Little sister? A slightly flustered Grafia thought. It sounded nice. The only sibling she had was her younger brother, who she had lost contact with after she betrayed the Lucifuge, and while she cared about him he was a bit clingy with her. And not in the adorable little sibling never wants to live their older sibling clingy, but the more creepy I will not share you with anyone, you are mine clingy. The closest she had to a sister was her best friend Kushina, and while she could be as immature as a little sister, it was not the same thing. Technically Rias was her sister-in-law, but Surzex hogged any and all time with the little red head. Whenever she watched the interaction between her husband and his sister she couldn't help but feel a little jealous. She looked at the white-haired girl in front of her, and imagined what it would be like to have a little sister, and she found it to be a pleasant thought. Besides, she is family in a way, and I cannot turn my back on family when they need help, she thought to herself. Now that you two know each other, I was hoping that you could do a favor for me, Oba-chan. And if I remember correctly, if not, sorry, Naruto said, gaining her attention. And what would this favor be, Naruto-sama? Grafia asked, regaining her composure. Well, it just so happens that your lost relative shares your talent with ice magic, Naruto started. Is that so? Grafia asked with a raised brow. Yup, the only problem is that she has trouble with her control. I see, and what would you like me to do about it? The silver-haired woman asked, already having an idea. Well, as one of the greatest ice users in the underworld, I was hoping you could help her. After all, it's like Ka-chan said. You two are practically sisters, isn't it the big sister's job to help the little sister? Naruto asked with a grin. Once again Grafia could feel the heat on her cheeks rise. Seeing this, Naruto smirked as an idea hit him, and he was sure it would chip away any resolve Grafia had. He leaned towards Sylvia and whispered something in her ear, causing her eyes to widen and her cheeks to burn. What? She whispered back in disbelief. Trust me, if you say that, she will defiantly train you, Naruto told her with a fox-like grin. Sylvia looked from her grinning king towards a curious-looking Grafia before swallowing her nerves. She turned towards her and bowed. Please help me, Winnie-sama. I will be forever grateful, she pleaded. Grafia stared at her with wide eyes, with only one thought running through her mind. She called me Winnie-sama. On the side, Surzex, Ajuka and Kushina were watching the scene with amusement. It was very rare to see the usually stoic queens so flustered. Well, now this is interesting, Ajuka stated. Yup, it's so rare seeing Grafia-chan like this, Kushina added with a smile. Looks like she's got herself a new little sister, Surzex added with a grin. Speaking of which, have you noticed that happy look whenever the word sister was mentioned? Ajuka asked. You're right, I guess she has something in common with Surzex, Kushina mused, causing the crimson-haired Satan to look at them curiously. Oh? And what would that be? You're both cis-cons, the husband and wife stated with a straight face. YHHH? Yup, while you are open with your creepy obsession with you sister. Ajuka started. Grafia seems to be a closet cis-con. His queen finished. But I'm not a cis-con, Sirzex insisted. Whatever you have to tell yourself to sleep at night, Ajuka said, not even looking at his friend who began to sulk. Back with the others, Grafia coughed into her hand as she tried to control her blush. She noticed Naruto snickering to himself and made a mental note to re-educate him in etiquette, as it was very impolite to snicker at a lady. It had nothing to do with the fact that he was laughing at her embarrassment. Nope, nothing at all. Naruto-sama is my godson and I care deeply for him. As his queen, you are expected to stand by his side and help him whenever he is in need of it. As one queen to another, I am more than willing to help you prepare for your future responsibilities, including how to control your powers, Grafia answered. Thank you, Sylvia whispered with a grateful smile. Also, Grafia continued gaining their attention. They noticed how she avoided making eye contact with the younger Lucifuge. Both Kushina-sama and Naruto-sama have made valid points about us being family, so if you wish to continue addressing me as One-sama, I have no objections to it. Back with the others, Ajuka smirked while Kushina giggled into her hand. Oh yeah, definitely a closet cis-con, Kushina whispered her husband, who was nodding in agreement. Sylvia stared at Grafia in shock. The only reason she called her One-sama in the first place was because Naruto told her to. She thought it would be a one-time thing. She was silent as she thought about it. The only family she ever had was her mother, but she remembered watching some of the other children in the village interact with their older siblings and remembered the envious feeling she felt as she watched. Plus, they were family, so being sisters wasn't that much of a stretch. She was silent for a moment before mentally shrugging. One of the reasons she was so depressed was because she was all alone with no family, and now all of a sudden she finds family. Who was she to look a gift horse by the mouth? In that case, I am in your care. Please take care of me, One-sama, Sylvia said with a smile and bow. Technically you are under Naruto-sama's care, but I am more than willing to help, Grafia corrected, but she also had a small smile. Naruto slung an arm around Sylvia's shoulders, grinning happily as he watched the scene before him. See? I told you things would work out. Aren't you glad you joined my peerage after all? Sylvia rolled her eyes, but she still had a soft smile on her face. Although I was a bit reluctant at first, I can't find it in myself to regret my decision. And to think just a few moments ago you were so against the idea of joining my peerage that you hurled a bunch of ice spikes at me, Naruto said, as if the risk of getting impaled was a normal occurrence. What was that about hurling ice spikes? Kushina asked with a frown. Sylvia averted her eyes to the ground while Naruto grinned without a care. When I first met Sylvia, she wasn't exactly thrilled to meet me. She thought I was just using her for her powers and attacked me. We fought for a bit, then we talked, and she agreed to join, Naruto said, giving them the short story. I see. Any particular reason that you attacked my son? Ajuka asked with a raised brow. Sylvia looked up to see all the adults staring at her, which did nothing to calm her nerves. Well, when I first saw him, he said he was interested in my powers, and I have always been self-conscious when it comes to my powers. Before meeting him, anything involving my powers always resulted negatively. Because of this, I got a bit defensive, and we ended up fighting, she explained, hoping she wouldn't upset them. Do these negative feelings have anything to do with your lack of control? Grafia asked. Yes, my powers were pretty much active since birth. At first it only started with lowering the temperature around me. Then it started to affect the weather around the village. It began to snow, and every now and then I would experience a sudden burst of energy, I guess is the best way to explain. Whenever that happened, a blizzard would hit the village. As the years went by, the village was met with a permanent winter, the cold and frost slowly killing them. As you can guess, they did not take too kindly to this, so they tried to kill me in hopes of ending the cold I brought, Sylvia informed. And where were your parents during this time? Kushina asked with a frown. She couldn't help but feel sad for the young girl before her. My mother was always there for me. She did not care about my powers. However, like I said, the temperature began to drop the moment I was born. She was exposed to the cold for so long that it was slowly killing her. Eventually she died, and her family disowned me, saying I killed her, Sylvia answered as guilt and sadness filled her eyes. And your father? I'm guessing he is your devil parent? Sirzex asked. Hi, my mother was human, so he is the devil. He abandoned us shortly after my birth. He said he did not want anything to do with a disgusting half-breed. I never understood it before until Naruto told me I was a devil, Sylvia explained. And do you know his name? Graphia asked with narrowed eyes. No, I don't. My mother never told me his first name, only that his last. I'm not sure why. Sylvia shrugged. You say that your powers began to develop since birth? Ajuka asked with a pensive expression. Yes, my mother said the temperature began to drop only a few hours after my birth. It was only a few days later that she realized that I was actually responsible for the sudden cold spell somehow. How strange. Ajuka muttered as he rubbed his chin thoughtfully. How is that strange? Naruto asked. It's very rare for someone to unlock their powers at such young age. The fact that she did only a few hours after her birth is basically impossible. Ajuka explained as he studied Sylvia. Beelzebub-sama is correct. Most members of the Lucifuge clan unlock their magical powers around 7 years of age. I myself unlocked my powers when I was 5, but I was considered a prodigy among our clan. I have never heard of a case of someone using their magic a few hours after birth. Graphia agreed. So what you're trying to say is? Naruto trailed off wondering what they meant. The only thing he was able to pick up was that Sylvia seemed to be some kind of prodigy, or something. What they mean is that Sylvia activating her powers so young is almost impossible. The only thing I can think of is that an outside source triggered it and forced her to unleash her magic. That could also explain why she has trouble with her control, because she activated it prematurely. Her lack of guidance is another contribution to her lack of control, but seeing as she grew up in a human village, that is understandable. Surzex added his opinion. I agree with Surzek's theory about an outside source. But what could it be? Kushin amused. Well, I can't be 100% positive, but she was half human, Ajuka stated. What does that have to do with anything? Sylvia asked with a frown as she listened to all the theories. Well, there are certain humans that are given something called sacred gears, Ajuka answered. Sacred gear? Naruto asked wide-eyed before staring at Sylvia. Was it possible that she had one? What is that? Sylvia asked, never hearing the term before. The God of the Bible created the sacred gears as part of his system to enact miracles on Earth. There are multiple sacred gears with various affects. Only human and human hybrids are born with them, though. Kushina explained. Since you were a hybrid, it is possible you possess one. My guess is that it was unintentionally activated when you were born. That can also explain your control problem. The unconscious and continuous activation of your sacred gear could be canceling out your control, which would lead to those blizzards and whatnot, Ajuka added. So my ice powers are not really mine, but rather this sacred gear that I may possess? Sylvia asked, not knowing how to feel about it. It is possible that you have an ice-type sacred gear, but it is also possible that you have one that increases your natural skills. Graphia answered for her, causing the younger girl to nod in understanding. So how do we find out for sure? Naruto asked his father. The only way to tell for sure is for her to summon it, came the older devil's answer. Summon it? Sylvia repeated. Exactly how do I do that? Close your eyes and take a stance that makes you feel empowered, Ajuka instructed. Sylvia looked at him in confusion, but shrugged it off and decided to just go with it. She closed her eyes and raised her right arm with her palm open. It was a simple stance, but it was the most common one she made when she used her ice magic. Alright, now you have to focus. Focus on the flow of your demonic energy, and search for any interference. Once you find it, you must pull it out. Sacred gears respond to one's desire, so you must want to summon it. Ajuka continued. Sylvia, with her eyes still closed, nodded, showing that she heard him. She began to focus on the flow of her demonic energy. Usually whenever she cast her magic, she just focused on the end results. She never even thought about something like this. After a few moments of focus, she was able to feel a falter in her flow and focused on that. She tried to pull it out but found it difficult. Remembering Ajuka's words, she began to think about what it is that she desired, and what she desired was control. She wanted to finally be able to control her power, and this sacred gear was in her way. The others watched her as her power began to spike and a white aura surrounded her. The temperature in the room began to drop and her eyes suddenly snapped open as a flash of light surrounded her, forcing the others to close their eyes. Did I do it? Sylvia asked as the light faded. She examined herself and noticed something. She was now wearing a necklace that she had never seen before. Not only that, but she was also surrounded by an icy mist-like shroud. Is this the sacred gear you guys were talking about? She asked with a frown. Honestly speaking, she was expecting something like a weapon with the way they spoke about sacred gears, not a piece of jewelry. I believe so. Now let's get a closer look, Ajuka said as he walked towards the young girl, noticing how much colder it got the closer he got. The necklace was a big necklace, he noticed. It was made of what appeared to be silver and encrusted with ice blue jewels. Whatever it was, it looked valuable, the kind of jewelry that a noble would wear. He reached towards one of the jewels and drew his finger back. That's really cold, Ajuka commented as he looked at his finger, which was now frostbitten. There's a lot of power coming from that, Kushina observed as she looked at the necklace carefully. But what is it? Naruto asked. Sylvia, I want you to channel some of your yoki into the necklace, just a little bit though, Grafia instructed. Taking a deep breath, Sylvia did as she was told and focused her power into the necklace, and the effect was instant. The floor was now covered in a layer of ice and an icy mist spread throughout the room. Wow, I barely tried, Sylvia admitted. Whatever this sacred gear was must have been pretty strong. I think I know what we have here, and I must say you really lucked out on this one, Naruto, Surzek said with a grin. Really? Why, what is it? Naruto asked, looking at his godfather for answers. While he and his father liked to make fun of the Lucifer, they knew that he was the leader of the Satans for a reason, so if he said he knew what this was, then there was little doubt in Naruto's mind that he knew for sure. Well, we are looking at the new wielder of absolute demise, also known as the Eternal Ice Princess, Surzek answered. What? Naruto asked in shock. If that was true, then that would mean. You heard me, your queen just so happens to be a Longinus wielder, Surzek said with a grin. Well, I do believe you're right, Surzek. Congratulations, Naruto, Ajuka said with a similar grin. No way, Naruto muttered to himself. Longinus wielder? What does that mean? Sylvia asked in confusion. There are 13 unique sacred gears in the world known as the Longinus. They are so strong that they are capable of killing a god, Ajuka explained. Really? Something like that was with me this whole time, Sylvia asked, shocked that she had something so strong. Yes, in fact, the absolute demise was the thing responsible for the Ice Age, Kushina added. So now that we know what was responsible for your lack of control, we can begin your training, Grafia said. Thank you, Onisama, Sylvia said with a smile. She took a quick glance at her king and her smile widened. Just this morning she expected her day to follow the normal pattern of loneliness, and now she finds herself surrounded by people who not only are unafraid of her abilities but are also willing to help her with it. Not only that, but she found family, and it was all thanks to her king. She heard Naruto saying that his goal was to surpass his father, and she made a silent vow that she would help him along the way in any way possible. As for Naruto, he could only watch with a huge smile. Today was definitely the best birthday ever. He gained a new friend. He gained a queen for his peerage. Not just any queen, but a Longinus-wielding queen who just so happens to be related to his godmother. Oh yeah, this was without a doubt his best birthday yet, and only one thought ran through his mind. Ha! My peerage only has one member, and it's already this kick-ass. Suck on that, Serorg. A blurred figure was running through the forest, barely making a sound as his feet hit the ground. The moonlight slipped through the tree leaves, revealing a man with shoulder-length silver hair. The man wore black pants and a dark gray open jacket with the sleeves torn off. The man came to a sudden stop and took a few sniffs into the air before growling as his face twisted in frustration. Damn it, he muttered before continuing on his path. Why was the man running? The answer was rather simple. He was a stray devil. What that meant was that he was considered a criminal within the underworld and would be killed on sight. Hoping to avoid that fate, he escaped into the human world, but it looked like that wasn't going to be enough. Must we continue this game of tag? A bored voice from his side asked, surprising him. Wide eyes, he turned and saw a young man casually running by his side. He had spiky blonde hair and blue eyes. He wore an orange and black jacket over a dark blue shirt and a pair of black jeans. Mizuki, for leading a coup within the peerage of your king and killing him, you are sentenced to death, the blonde said, glancing at the glaring man now named Mizuki. And what if I resist? He jeered as he went to kick the blonde, who merely stepped out of range from the blow. If you resist? Well, that would just make my night a little more difficult, but it won't change things. Your time on Earth ends tonight. The blonde shrugged. A cocky one, aren't you? Mizuki sneered as he lunged towards the blonde, but again his pursuer sidestepped out of the way. Maybe, the blonde idly commented as he blocked one of Mizuki's punches before driving his fist into the stomach of the silver-haired man. Gah! He grunted in pain before he went flying until he crashed into a nearby tree. Recovering himself, Mizuki released a growl as he leapt towards the blonde, only to stumble back when the blonde's foot slammed into his jaw. Now you said you were going to resist? At least try and make this challenging," the blonde scolded. "Damn Bastak." Mizuki was interrupted as his opponent's knee drove into his gut before a right hook connected with his face. "Name calling? Really? That's just plain rude," the blonde scolded in a tone that was seriously pissing Mizuki off. "Damn punk thinks he's some kind of big shot. Smug little prick, I knew someone was following me and now it's time to pounce," Mizuki thought with a smirk. "Well, you think you're something, huh? Well, it looks like your arrogance is about to cost you," he taunted, causing the blonde to raise a brow. "You haven't been able to land a hit on me yet, but I'll bite. How is my arrogance going to cost me?" he asked, tilting his head to the side, his calm tone causing Mizuki to grit his teeth in frustration. "What did it take to get a rise out of this guy? You knew the reason I'd become a stray was by leading a coup. You know I have allies and yet you come here by yourself? Well, it's about to cost you. Now! Attack!" he shouted. Chirp, chirp, chirp. "Was something supposed to happen?" the blonde asked with a raised brow. "The hell?" Mizuki muttered to himself. Where were his allies? He knew he was being hunted, so he sent them off to hide and wait for the signal to take this guy out. "Perhaps I wasn't the one who was arrogant," the blonde suggested. "What did you do?" Mizuki asked, glaring hatefully at his opponent, who simply shrugged his shoulders. "The answer's simple, really," the blonde said as he stuffed his hands in his pockets, his lips twitched into a mocking smile. "But I think I'll answer your question with a question of my own." Mizuki waited for him to continue, but his eyes widened when the blonde suddenly vanished before his eyes. Before he could search the area, he heard a voice from behind whisper in his ear. "What made you think I showed up on my own?" And that was all he heard before something grabbed the back of his head and slammed him into the ground. Raijin and Fujin, also known as the legendary Stupid Brothers, were in a predicament. Like their ringleader, they were stray devils. Earlier tonight, Mizuki felt the presence of another devil who was most likely out to hunt them. So, following their boss' orders, they split up from him and waited for his signal to attack whoever was after them. The orders were rather simple, but like earlier stated, there was a predicament, and it was standing right in front of them, preventing them from completing their orders. The first obstacle was a young woman with a voluptuous figure, light black hair with split bangs and hazel eyes with cat-like pupils. She wore a black kimono that opened at the shoulder, showing off her impressive cleavage, a yellow obi, a set of golden beads, and an ornately detailed headband. However, the trait that stood out most were the black cat ears and two tails that swung about lazily. The second obstacle was another young woman, but this one had long silver hair that was shining beneath the moonlight. She wore a simple gray turtleneck and a black mid-thigh skirt. She also wore gray thigh-high socks and black loafers. Like the black-haired girl, this one had some traits that stood out, such as her crimson-red eyes with slits for pupils, and there was also a fang jutting from her lips as she smirked at the brothers before her. "Brother, what we do? Pretty girls no let us pass," Fujin asked as he scratched the back of his head. "Don't know, brother, but boss said we gotta help him, or we no get dinner," Raijin answered with a frightened expression. "No dinner?" Fujin repeated, looking just as scared as his brother. "Dinner is the last of your worries, Naya," the black-haired girl with the cat-like features taunted with a smirk. "Fujin and Raijin, for aiding in the murder of your king, you were declared stray devils. Now please stand still so we can kill you quickly," the silver-haired girl said. "It seems like we have company." Meizu, a man with shoulder-length, wild dark brown hair and dark eyes. He wore a rebreather that covered the lower half of his face and a large, clawed gauntlet on his right arm. He also had on a camouflage suit with bandages around his waist, dark-colored, knee-length sandals, and a ragged black cape. "So it would seem Gozu," a man who looked identical to Meizu stated. The only real difference was that his gauntlet was worn on his left arm. Like Raijin and Fujin, these two were a part of the coup that Mizuki led and were about to go after whoever was chasing Mizuki, but they were led away by the individual before them. She was a beautiful young girl with long blonde hair that was tied in a ponytail with two bangs framing her face. She wore a green shirt, white jacket, dark blue jeans, and brown boots. Her green eyes were full of mirth as she smiled at the two before her, with one hand resting on the handle of the rapier that hung on her hip. "You're Meizu and Gozu, right?" she asked in an upbeat voice. "So what if we are?" Meizu asked, eyes narrowed at the girl in front of him. "Well, if you are, then I'm afraid I have some bad news," she informed them. "And what would that be?" Gozu asked as he shifted in place, watching her carefully. "Tonight's the night you're going to die," she answered with a smile. Die. You have some nerve, you bitch? Oboro snarled, his voice slightly distorted from his rebreather. Oboro was a young man with spiky black hair and dark eyes. He wore a yellow jumpsuit stitched up along the middle. He also had a sash tied around his face with 2 holes cut out for his eyes. That's some big talk from one girl, Kaguri added. Kaguri looked a lot like Oboro but with brown hair. He wore the same exact jumpsuit, and the sash around his face had no holes cut into it. It's 3 against 1, lady. We're a little late on our orders, so if you leave now we'll forget about this ridiculous conversation, Mubi offered. Like the other 2 before him, he wore the same jumpsuit and rebreather. His black hair was low trimmed and the cloth around his face had a hole cut out on the left eye only. Oboro, Kaguri and Mubi were stray devils. They had helped Mizuki kill their king and were now on the run. When Mizuki felt the presence of someone following them, they followed his orders and hid themselves until they were given the signal to attack. However, before they received that signal, they were cut off by some girl they'd never met before who had told them she was here to kill them. The girl was beautiful, no doubt about that. Her hair, that was as white as snow, was partially tied up in the back in a long bun and fell behind her shoulders, while a strand fell between her ice blue eyes, and parted on the left side of her head by a blue, star-shaped hair clip. She wore a white kimono with large sleeves and a long hem with a pale yellow-green obi wrapped around her waist, which was attached to a large, pale purple bow on her back. 3 on 1, you say? I don't see how that is relevant. Because in the end all of you will cease to exist. She explained in soft voice. Her eyes were cold as she stared them down. That's some big talk, Oboro growled. Not really, she countered, still looking at them with a calmness that unnerved the 3 of them. It is simply fact. Alright, I've had enough of this bitch, Kaguri stated. Although his eyes were covered, you could practically feel the glare he was throwing her way. I say we kill her. Agreed, came Oboro's immediate response. Whatever, let's just get this over with. We're already behind time, Mubi said. I do not mean to brag, but you do not stand a chance against me. My king has done his research on your group and you 3 have no real talent in combat, she stated, causing their anger to rise. What was that? Oboro hissed in outrage. Have I offended you? She asked, tilting her head. If so, I apologize, it was not my intention, I was merely stating facts. Your 3 specialize in illusions to stall your opponents, and wait for them to tire out or for your allies to finish them off. That type of tactic will not work on me. That's it. Time to die, Oboro growled as he made a hand sign followed by his 2 allies. The white-haired girl watched evenly as an army of clones emerged from the ground. She raised a brow at the army, far from impressed. She couldn't feel any heat coming from them, so it was obvious that they were simple illusions. Sighing, she shook her head a bit. Did she not just warn them that this sort of tactic would not affect her? Oh well, it would seem she would have to show them how serious she was about them having no chance against her. So now that you know that backup isn't showing up, are you still going to resist? The blonde teen asked as he caught Mizuki's kick before swinging his around before slamming him onto the ground beneath him. I doubt that your friends can handle my boys. They'll be here in a matter of seconds, Mizuki said, getting back up as he tried a sweep kick only for his opponent to jump out of its way. Seems you're a stubborn one, the blonde commented before pointing a finger towards Mizuki. Zero, he said before firing a blast of golden demonic energy from the tip of his finger. Mizuki's eyes widened before he jumped out of the way. He had no intention of getting hit by that attack. He closed his eyes briefly as a dust storm kicked up from the explosion. When his eyes opened, he only saw the first for a second before it crashed into his nose. Closing your eyes during battle, rookie mistake, the blonde commented. Screw you, Mizuki shouted as he clutched his nose. Damn, it was definitely broken. You'll pay for that. So you say, his opponent drawled as Mizuki charged. He unleashed a blur of kicks and punches, but no matter what he did, he couldn't land a hit on his damned opponent. You know, when I was given this mission, I expected more from you, the blonde stated as he ducked a punch and hit Mizuki with an uppercut. Mizuki staggered back, but his opponent grabbed his wrist, spun around, and threw him over his shoulder. Damn it! Stop mocking me, Mizuki shouted as he got back on his feet. This blonde was seriously pissing him off. Not only could he not get a hit, but the way he talked, so casually, like he was no threat whatsoever. Mocking you? How am I mocking you? I'm just speaking the truth, the blonde in orange said, sounding confused at Mizuki's accusation. Stop talking to me like that, Mizuki growled out as his teeth grew fangs and his muscles bulged. You know, I am starting to wonder how someone with your level of strength was able to kill your king," he continued. If he noticed Mizuki's anger, then he was doing a good job of ignoring it. "Wait till I get my hands on you, I'm going to cave your skull in," Mizuki swore as his nails grew into claws and his ears became pointed. "You know most stray devils go solo, but you worked hard to maintain your group, and I think I know why. It's because you're too weak to do anything by yourself." "Shut the fuck up," Mizuki said, his patience officially gone. Orange fur grew on his skin as well as black stripes. "Oh, so you were originally a tiger yokai before you were reincarnated?" the blonde asked with a raised brow and a somewhat interested look. "I never had to reveal this form before, but for you I'll make an exception," Mizuki said with a malicious grin. "Well, then I feel special," the blonde said in a sarcastic tone, and Mizuki's anger returned full force. "Stop acting so nonchalant, you bastard," he said as he charged. He started with a forward charge, but he suddenly vanished with his new speed boost. The blonde merely blinked before a shadow from before engulfed him. Looking over his shoulder, he saw Mizuki with a savage grin with his hands clenched together raised over his head. "Bye-bye," he said as he brought down his hands, creating a large dust explosion from the impact. "Don't think I'm done yet," he said as he leapt into the air. His claws glowed with demonic energy, and he began to make multiple slashing motions, creating an onslaught of crescent-shaped blades bombarding the spot where he left his opponent. "Die, die, 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 die," he chanted under his breath, his eyes filled with dark glee. Stopping his attack, he landed back on the ground, threw his head back and laughed. "Ha ha ha ha! I told you I would kill you," he said, unable to contain his joy. Joy that was promptly destroyed when he heard a familiar and unwelcome voice. "You know, you jumped to conclusions too soon," he heard from behind. Slowly turning his head with an expression of disbelief. Sitting on the branch completely unscratched was his blonde opponent. "How?" he muttered, unable to comprehend what he was seeing. "How are you uninjured?" "Easy, you missed." "What?" he muttered, unable to see how he could have missed. "I don't understand what's so hard to understand. I am unharmed because you missed," he said as he jumped off the branch and landed on the ground, creating a small dust cloud at his feet. "Who the hell are you?" Mizuki finally muttered as he was starting to feel nervous. No matter what he tried, nothing hit this guy. He was starting to realize that this was no ordinary kid. "I suppose I've forgotten to introduce myself. Let's fix that now," the blonde said as he offered a mock bow before grinning. "The name's Naruto Astaroth." Mizuki's eyes widened at that name. His opponent before him was none other than T, the son of Beelzebub? He said. Naruto Astaroth was a well-known name in the underworld. The only child of Ajuka Beelzebub, he was a rising star among the younger devils. However, about 5 years ago he left the underworld in order to find others to join his peerage. "Yeah, I was on my way home, but I was given the request to eliminate you, and since I was around the area, Naruto trailed off." "It doesn't matter who you are," Mizuki said, trying to steal his nerves. "Once my men get here, you're done." "Like I said, who says I came here alone? My peerage is out there taking out your goons," Naruto said dismissively. "Please," Mizuki scoffed, finally regaining his composure. "You may be the brat of a Satan, but I bet you're all talk. Have you already forgotten how ineffective you've been? You haven't landed a single hit," Naruto deadpanned. "Now then, I think it's time to finish this." Mizuki swallowed his nervousness as the wind around them began to shift. A golden aura surrounded Naruto, and the increase in strength he felt was unnerving him. "Just wait till my men get here, Astaroth. I'm sure your peerage stands no chance against my group." Mizuki tried again. If things kept going at this rate, then his only chance of survival was for his men to get here so they could use numbers to their advantage. "You think so?" Naruto asked, his voice laced with amusement. "Well, I'm sorry to tell you this, but your boys have no chance against my group." "Ouch!" Fuijin shouted as he was kicked in the jaw by the silver-haired girl. "Brother!" Raijin shouted in concern before glaring at the girl. "Why you being mean?" "I already told you. We're here to kill you," she simply stated. "By the way, you might want to look behind you." "Why?" Raijin asked with a frown before turning around in time to receive a knee to the face. "Oh. I'm not done yet, Naya," the black-haired girl said as she landed on the ground and did a quick spin to hit him with a heel kick to the gut, causing him to stagger back. Seeing that he was still open, she followed with 3 quick punches to his ribs, and finished with a kick to the side of the head. "Bad kitty. Stop hurt, brother," Fuijin shouted as he charged at the cat-like girl only to get cut off by his silver-haired opponent. Sorry big boy, but you're dealing with me, she said, unleashing a flurry of devastating kicks. The legendary Stupid Brothers. Well known for their strength and defense, but going against the power of a vampire whose strength was increased by the bonus from the rook piece, even they would have a hard time withstanding that Naya, the black-haired girl said, watching as her friend continuously attacked her opponents. Seeing that she had everything under control, she turned towards her opponent. So what should we do with you, Naya? Mean girls hurt brother, Asian hurt mean girls, the enraged brother shouted as he charged. Charging recklessly headfirst, Naya? I guess it's true, you two are all brawn and no brains. As she raised her arm. A second later, an orb of purple energy appeared hovering over the palm of her hand. Now this might hurt a bit, Naya. Raijin watched the lights with wide eyes. He had no idea if it was dangerous or not. The only thing he noticed about it was that it was a very pretty light. He watched as the cat-like girl dropped the glowing ball before raising her leg and kicking it. He only had enough time to scream in pain as the ball exploded the moment it crashed into his face. Oh, still standing, Naya? Well then, the cat-like girl trailed off with a mischievous smile as she held up both hands. Seconds later, 2 more purple orbs appeared. Let's see how much you can take before you stay down, Naya. Mizuki's signal and orders were completely forgotten as Fuijin and Raijin continued to stay on the receiving end of the bombardment. Between the exploding purple bombs and bone-crushing kicks, dinner was the last thing on their mind. For instance, the legendary Stupid Brothers. Their speed is abysmal even for rooks, their intelligence is minuscule, and their fighting style is non-existent. All they can do is throw a punch. Their only redeeming quality is that they have an abnormally high defense, but even that won't last forever. Naruto explained as his fist connected with Mizuki's jaw. Okay, you may have a point there, but there's still Gozu and Meizu. Mizuki shot back, trying to slash Naruto. The Demon Brothers, right? They were the knights of your peerage. Sorry, but I sent my own knight against them, and they have no chance. Naruto countered as he kicked the tiger yokai / devil in the ribs. 1 knight against 2? Those 2 have excellent teamwork, and against a single opponent? Those 2 will be here in no time, Mizuki said, spitting a glob of blood. Please, ever hear of quality over quantity? My knight is in a league of her own compared to those 2, Naruto said in a matter-of-fact tone. Mizuki wouldn't admit it, but the confidence he heard from his voice did nothing to ease his nerves. Gah! Meizu howled in pain as he clutched the stub of what used to be his left arm. Fucking bitch! Gozu shouted in a similar state as his brother, his right arm now gone. Come on, Meikuin, Gokuin. No need for name-calling. I told you that you were going to die, it's not my fault you keep resisting, Naruto's knight informed. Screw Mizuki. Brother, it's time to retreat, Gozu said, breathing heavily. I agree, brother. Let's go, Meizu added, and the 2 turned around to escape but blinked in shock to discover the blonde standing in front of them, looking over their shoulders to see her previous spot now vacant. Fast, they bother thought. You 2 are so rude, they heard her say. And the thing that bothered them most was the upbeat voice she spoke with. Even when she was evading their attacks or severing their arms, she never lost that damned happy voice. Not only do you try and run away, but then you go and turn your back on a lady? Squelch. Gozu could only stare in horror at the sight before him. Right next to him, his brother stood frozen in place. The rapier that their opponent wielded was thrust through his throat. Gozu's mind went blank as he watched the life leave Meizu's eyes. Be brother, he stuttered. The rapier was pulled away and Meizu fell to the ground. Gozu knew he should pay more attention to his opponent, but all he couldn't take his eyes away from the corpse of his brother. 1 down, 1 to go, he heard her say, but he still couldn't take his eyes off his brother's prone form. He knew he was about to die, but he didn't care. Say what you will about him, but no one could deny that he loved his brother, and he had no intention of going on without him. Besides, it was clear that he was outclassed. Even if he wanted to fight, his weapon was gone. Even when it was 2-on-1, they still couldn't touch her, and she easily severed their arms. So the only real choice he had was to wait. Accepting his fate, he closed his eyes and waited. Come on, Mizuki, you can do better than that, Naruto said as he fired multiple Sarasan. Despite his protesting body, Mizuki was able to dodge it. Damn you, Astaroth! Mizuki shouted before one of Naruto's Siro shot him in the shoulder. This was one of his more concentrated shots, so it pierced through. Not the worst thing that someone said to me, Naruto shrugged, firing another Siro that hit Mizuki in the knee, causing him to fall to the ground. Just wait until Oboro and his team get here. They're masters at stalling and evasion. They definitely escaped whoever you sent and are on their way now, Mizuki said, clinging to his hope that help would arrive. A part of him wasn't surprised when Naruto threw his head back and laughed. Those guys? I actually feel sorry for them. I doubt they lasted 5 seconds against Snowflake-chan, Naruto said, wiping away a few tears of mirth. Like I said earlier, you stood no chance against me. The white-haired girl sighed as she studied the area around her. The ground was now covered by a layer of ice, and standing before her were 3 ice statues that bore a striking resemblance to her opponents. The battle, if you could call it one, was hardly a challenge. The fools thought they could trick her with a simple illusion. The battle was over before it even started. When it came to magic, ice and snow were her specialties. Unleashing her demonic energy, the area around her began to freeze at a rapid pace, and her 3 opponents, whose magic resistance was virtually non-existent, were not spared. I guess I should end this, she said to herself, waving her arm. The wind began to pick up, and above the statues ice began to form. It was a simple block of ice, nothing extraordinary, but as every second passed by it got bigger and bigger. Once she was satisfied with the size, she swept her arm in a downward motion, and the miniature glacier fell to the ground, crushing the statues beneath it. Seeing that her work was done, she turned around and headed for her king. On her way, she idly wondered how these guys were able to perform a successful coup. Laying on the ground, Mizuki desperately tried to think of a way to escape. By now it was obvious that no one was coming to help him. He tried to get back up, but his body wouldn't respond, so here he lay bruised, bloodied, and beaten. What's wrong, Mizuki? No more remarks about back up? No more cursing my name? Naruto asked with his arms crossed. What was that? Naruto asked with a raised brow. Please, Mizuki whispered, his voice hoarse. Yes? Naruto asked, wondering what he would say. Don't kill me, Mizuki coughed. Ah, the desperate plea for mercy, Norat said, tilting his head a bit. Alright, I'll play along. Why should I spare you? The others you can each have, then just please spare me, Mizuki said, the labored breeze, raising his head to look him in the eyes. If he was expecting any sympathy, he sorely disappointed. Naruto's face was contorted in anger as he glared at the man beneath him. You really are pathetic, he spat out. You would really sell out your team to save your own ass? Pathetic. Naruto calmly walked to the downed man and held up his hand. He crouched down, and his pointer finger was only a few centimeters from Mizuki's head. The silver-haired tiger's eyes widened in fear when he saw this. No! Please don't! Please let me go! He begged as the familiar golden light appeared at the tip of Naruto's fingers. Loyalty is something I greatly value, and to see how easily you would sell out your comrades, well, let's just say I would be lying if I said a small part of me wouldn't be enjoying this. Zero, he said, firing his attack at point-blank range. Naruto stood up as he stared at the now headless corpse. Pointing his finger one more time, he fired a much larger zero, incinerating the body. Releasing a sigh, he scratched the back of his head. About time, that guy was a real pain in the ass, he muttered. You guys done yet? It was silent for a minute before he could hear several footsteps. Turning around, he saw the people he sent to deal with Mizuki's henchmen. You guys done? He asked calmly. Do you even have to ask, Naya? The cat-like girl asked as she hugged him from behind, pressing her generous bust against his back, earning a slight blush from the only male in the group. Oh, we're on a job, Kuroka-chan, he complained, trying to get the girl off. She only laughed a bit before jumping back. Mocha-chan and I were able to handle the stupid brothers, Naya, the cat-like girl informed, gesturing to herself and the silver-haired girl. It was rather easy. The only difficulty we had was their defense. When you said those two can take a hit, you weren't kidding, the now-named Mocha added. Demon brothers were dealt with, Narukuan, the blonde swordswoman answered. Good job, Jean, and what about you, Snowflake-chan? They give you any trouble? Naruto asked with a grin, already knowing the answer. Please, if you have to ask, then you are still the same foolish king you were when we first met, the white-haired girl scoffed.